Hi, everybody. Hi, Real Chat. How are you guys today? I'm talking to them, not you. Hi. Hi, Buffalo. Hi. Happy Tuesday. Are you guys excited for Larry's stream after this for Juice Tuesday? I have no idea why the raid function isn't working. I don't know how to do a raid anymore. It broke or something. He even got her pregnant. So everyone, it was Engel's child. I didn't know that. I will say Engels seemed more progressive on family code than Marx did. Yeah, I don't know. So, all right. So you guys, we're switching over to Twitch now. So come join us over on Twitch. It's going to be fun. You're going to like it. It's twitch.tv/Madeline Pendleton. And we're going to talk about current events today. Yesterday we talked about the Strait of Hormuz being closed by Donald Trump, and what that means and how that basically made the United States just weird pirates. We talked about Iran. So you also get to vote on what current events you get to talk about over there. So if you have something current events wise that you want to know more about, that you want to deep dive on, come over there and you can have the opportunity to suggest it, and we all vote together on what we want to talk about. So it's, yes, I think Ghostpain just dropped the link. Is that Ghostpain that did that? Yes, thank you, Ghostpain. So come join us. We're going to have a good time. It's fun. We like it. There was a raid to Larry's stream yesterday, so probably not a Twitch issue. So it's something's going on with my everything. Okay, wait. Carr says, after Marx died, his housekeeper and Engels worked in tandem to organize and arrange for the publication of Marx's literary estate, discovering in the process the manuscript from which Engels was able to reconstruct the second volume of Capital. Wow! That's cool. So she was part of the team. She's part of the team. I love that. Why didn't you go on Jubilee? Debates are dumb. It would really boost your platform. I don't need my platform boost. That's not a goal of mine. This is not my job. And Jubilee is not, there's no reason for that to exist in the world. Have you guys seen Jamboree, though? It's the only time improv has ever been funny, I swear to God. Have you guys seen this? Radical History. It kind of is. That's actually kind of true. Have you guys seen Jamboree? We'll watch Jamboree as a special treat. I discovered it this morning and I was dying. It's improv groups doing fake Jubilee, but with like a topic, debate me. And it's the only time I've ever seen improv be funny in my life, like ever. Thank you, guys, Payne. Okay, so you guys come on over to the Twitch stream. All right, twitch.tv. You saw the 2 + 2 = 5 one? It's so funny. It is so funny. I saw this other one that was two like big guys talking, and one of the guys was like, small dogs should be, or no, people in cities shouldn't own dogs, change my mind. And one of the big guys was like, oh, do you think that's because the apartments are too small for the dogs? And he was like, yes. And he's like, have you considered you're just a fatty boomo laddie 2x4 McFatty or something like that? And both of them were staring at each other, but they're both like really big dudes. So it was like super funny. It's very, very funny. Yeah, 2x4 who can't fit through the door. That's what it was. Yeah. It was very funny. It was like, maybe you don't fit in apartments. Which I actually is true for, like, I used to have this apartment that I would say was fat phobic. And I would tell my friends who were fat, like, dude, I am so sorry. My apartment sucks. Like, my apartment's so shitty. The door to the hallway was so small that, like, I had to turn sideways to kind of fit through part of it. And I'm like the size of a child. I was like, this apartment literally, like, and I thought about that. I'm like, holy shit, like if you're a larger person, like you deal with housing discrimination already, right? Because people are fucked up to fat people for no reason. But also then on top of that, you just literally can't fit in some spaces. The spaces that are small, the spaces that are cheap. And I'm like, damn, this is evil. But yeah, so very, very interesting. Where are your parents from, Virgo? And where are their parents from? I don't think you're wrong. I think your position is racist. It was so funny. And then when they Uno reversed it back to the original person, and it was like, I'm Canadian and my parents are from France. It was so funny. You guys should follow that. I'm voting Ramsey Robinson for governor, and you should too. Okay. So how many people do we have over here? Are we out of TikTok jail yet? Yeah, as long as you can make profit, who cares about door sizes? If you underfeed the masses, then they'll be tiny enough to fit in your tiny, tiny little apartment. And then you can make more apartments per building and boom, more profit. So if you starve the masses, actually, it's good for business, if you think about it. All part of the plan. Okay. So I see you keep asking this question. Lexi, just hold on a second. We're doing like a transition thing. Or somebody in the chat can answer. I am a Marxist-Leninist, so I'm voting for the Marxist-Leninist. I'm voting for the person who has my exact same politics, very obviously. And I know if you're a Democrat, that's probably rare for you. I was thinking about this the other day. Democrats don't understand what it's like to vote for somebody who has your exact same politics because they've never seen somebody with their exact same politics. Because so many people who identify as Democrats in the United States, liberals, generally where you guys live, they think that voting is always compromise. They're like, well, I'm never gonna find someone I want to vote for because I would prefer actually not to murder children in other countries for cheap oil, but every politician just wants to, so you just have to be okay with that because they don't see third-party candidates as actually being real and viable, right? They think that always your politics are about compromise. They're not. There are literally five candidates I can confirm running right now in California who all have my exact same political beliefs on everything. Right? So I don't have to compromise. I've got people running who believe exactly what I believe, so why wouldn't I vote for them? When I did. Okay, we're getting there. It's Juice's Day. Juice's Day. How do you pronounce it, Larry? Oh, Virgo's answering you. Listen to Virgo. I side with Virgo. I agree with Virgo. Did you visit China? Did you ever see how bad China looks? Did you go to China in the 90s? This is the thing. Whenever you talk to somebody about China, they're using info from like the 90s. They don't know what happened. Yeah, I know. I hope we can actually do a raid today. I'm pretty upset. Europe Wars. I think they're like a Gen X dude. Oh, we're talking about this guy over on Twitch. Yeah, somebody on TikTok chat is saying China looks bad. It's the guy with the and he's saying Europe's awesome and shit. Yeah, exactly. Stargazer says this isn't 1972 anymore. China looks great, girl. Mm-hmm. Well, I'm going back and forth. All right, how many people do we have over here? Yeah, we can talk about China in Taiwan, for sure. You mean China and China? We can talk about that. I love talking about China. Well, ever since I've decided to be nicer this week on TikTok, you can't tell because I'm not screaming at them right now. Right? We're China maxing. You met a person who went to China 3 times in 10-year gaps. And he said it blew his mind how much it changed each time. Exactly. Yep. It changes so fast. Yes, Otto Warmbier, everybody's heard of it. I'm 40. I was alive when that was happening. Okay? I was an adult when that was happening. It's not anything unique. I don't know why people try to make the Otto Warmbier case into some big gotcha. Like, a dude literally went to another country, broke the law, broke into a restricted government area to steal something, government property, got caught. It was caught on camera. And then he was sentenced to prison because I don't even know, like, if people understand how intense this is. North Korea, the DPRK, is still at war with the United States. The Korean War never ended. The United States is still doing active military operations against North Korea constantly. So this American guy, they don't know who he is, comes to North Korea from a country they're at war with, who's doing constant espionage against them, as well as direct military threats. Like, just a couple years ago, an operation went bad, and we just slaughtered a bunch of fishermen off the coast of North Korea because they saw us. They got caught. The U.S. Marines got caught, and then we're like, kill them all, I guess. Wild. Massacred a bunch of fishermen. So a guy from that country who they don't know breaks into a restricted area and starts trying to steal things. For all they know, he's a spy. He's doing government espionage. They have no clue. So he gets sentenced to prison, very obviously, like you would. And he got sentenced to 15 years in prison, which kind of a long sentence, but I'm from California. Literally, we had, growing up my whole life, this thing called 3 strikes you're outlaws. People were literally sentenced to prison in California for life for doing things like stealing $10 or like stealing a bagel. Like, it was crazy what was happening out here in California. So to me, when I heard that story, I think 3 strikes law might have still been in effect when that happened, or had just ended. So I was like, that actually doesn't seem that bad, because horrible things happen in the United States all the time. And not even just in California. In the South, this man was like sentenced to life in prison because he stole like $50 worth of VHS tapes once when I was growing up. So he did get sentenced to prison, like you do when you break the law, right? And then 1 year in, he had a medical emergency. And nobody in North Korea could figure out what the medical emergency was. They tried to medically treat him for a year, and it was getting worse, not better. And North Korea, they do have free healthcare for all their citizens, which is amazing. They don't have the most advanced or developed healthcare system because of the blockade. The blockade means that they have to do everything on their own, starting from square one, like within their borders. It is challenging for them. And what they've managed to do is amazing despite that. But, you know, they don't have all the up-to-date medical technology. So they actually sent him back to the United States, and they were like, maybe you guys can treat him, because we can't. They sent him along with all of his medical records. They released him from his prison sentence 14 years early, and they sent him back to the USA with his medical records. And his American doctors were also like, we cannot figure out what it is. His North Korean doctors were like, we think maybe he got botulism and had some sort of complication with a sleeping pill he took while in prison. We don't know. His American doctors were like, well, we would not be able to see botulism this far out, so we can't confirm or deny that. We don't know. It technically could happen. It would be rare, though. And his American doctors were basically like, we have no clue. So then under his American doctor's care, he died. And his American doctors were even like, it's possible the people in North Korea were giving him some sort of medication combo that was keeping him alive that we didn't. It's possible the flight took too much of a toll on his body and killed him. They don't know why he died when he got to the United States, while the North Korean doctors were able to keep him alive. So after he died, though, his American doctors told his family, like, hey, the only way we're going to know what happened to your son is if we do an autopsy. But his family's Jewish. So to do an autopsy is a violation of their faith. And they were like, we don't want to do an autopsy on him. So they're like, we'll never know. We will never know what happened to him. And his doctors did say that he had signs on his body that he'd been receiving medical care, like IV marks from treatment, things, you know, whatever. So then Donald Trump got on the news with his grieving family and was like, he was tortured by them. He was tortured to death. His teeth were rearranged. There were signs of torture all over his body. None of this was true. His American doctors then had a press conference to be like, we don't know why Donald Trump said all that. That's not true at all. We saw no evidence of torture on this man. We saw no evidence his teeth were rearranged. That is made up, and we don't know why he said that. And that's it. And nobody will ever know what actually happened because his family denied an autopsy, which is their right to do. I know we have to do this all the time. We have to do this all the time with people. So it's just weird. And that's like how propaganda works. Most people are like, have you heard about Otto Warmbier? And it's like, well, have you actually looked into this like at all? And usually you haven't, right? Yes, Cog the Cog says you heard that Otto was part of an Ivy League club. He was sent to the DPRK to steal a special antique sign as a form of initiation. So the way I understood this story is that a local church had like a collection that they had of like interesting things from around the world. And they were like, if you could steal something special and bring it back as like a trophy from the DPRK, we'll give you a car. Because he was like in college and needed a car. And they're like, yeah, we have a car the church has that we'll give you. We'll trade you for it. So he's like, cool, I'll get a car if I steal something. That's what I had heard. Yeah, very Christ-like. Yeah, so that's it. Okay, I'm going to hang up with the TikTokers. And we're going to start. How many people are in here? Are in Twitch? It was in his testimony he gave in the DPRK. And Larry, was it about the church? Is that where I got the church thing from? 218? Okay, we're good. Okay. So, you guys come over. Oh, David, are you even hungry? Come on over. Twitch.tv/Madeline Pendleton. It's going to be nice if you enjoy this. You're going to like that more. Trust me. Okay. Bye. Okay, hi. It wasn't so bad today. You guys thought it was bad. Maybe it's because I was painting my nails. I didn't see it. I was like in my own little world. David's birthday was... It was an Ivy League club for a school called the Z Society. Oh, okay. I don't know where I heard the church thing. I don't remember. You're back here. Oh, David from Hungary. Hi, welcome. Yeah, David's birthday was nice. I felt bad because we were all super tired. So we're going to try to do something more proper on Friday. But we went and got dinner, and then we went to a wine bar next to David's house. Yeah, do you guys want to watch the only funny improv that's ever existed as a palate cleanser to get us in this? Oop, that's my work. Hee hee. I just pulled up ShipStation. You guys don't care about ShipStation. I'm going to find it. I have to find it from my following. Trump's blockade. You mean the naval blockade? We talked about the naval blockade yesterday. You hate ShipStation? It feels really 90s. I switched actually all of our stuff around, and I'm like, all of our stuff for work feels so 90s now, but I'm kind of into it. I'm like, yeah, we're retro. Jamboree. Okay, so this is the TikTok account for the only funny improv that's ever existed. Should we watch the 2 + 2 = 5? This is a good opportunity for check for news for everybody. You guys check for news while we have this. Feel free to send things. I'll copy and paste them as we go. Ooh, okay. Drop the link. I'll drop the link. Can I paste? No. I'm back to not being able to paste. All right. Tiny URL. 5D. A9A3N. Okay, Eric Swalwell. We got a lot of Eric Swalwell. Eric Swalwell. Jesus, this guy. The Swalwell stuff does interest me. I'm just going to leave this here and I'll be able to access it afterwards. Okay, Wired. The internet's... Yeah, this is what we'll do. We'll look at the stuff while the poll goes. That's what we'll do. So yeah, let's do this. We'll look at the funny improv while the poll is happening. The May 1st general strike. The May Day strike. Yeah, so anybody who has recommendations for news today, send them now. And then what we're going to do is we'll watch our slop content while the poll is running. So you'll vote, and then we'll slop content. It'll be like that. You know what I mean? Okay. Mayday warehouse fires. Hello from Hungary. That's right, David. I remember. Yes. I recently released all my 5-year research on the Christo-fascist school I went to. You want to know if you could send it? Yes. And I do still have a list of things I need to do for the Twitch community, which includes messaging some of you. I'm very, very slow at things. I'm very, very sorry. I apologize for that. It's hot warehouse summer. It is indeed a hot warehouse. It is hot warehouse summer, yes. The warehouses are all getting lit on fire. Apparently, the girls are doing hot warehouse summer. Right, yeah. I wish we could just claim ownership over the warehouse instead of destroying it. Well, you know, the masses, they're where they are. UK knew NATO expansion could lead to war with Russia. Yep, love that one. That's true. Okay. Here's the research. We've got the research. It's in a reel. Okay. I'm going to copy that and I'm going to save that for later on my to-do. Watch this. I also have figure out why I can't make a poll or raid. That's new. Okay. All right. Deeply important DPRK news from Cards from Radio Free Asia. Oh, actually, I kind of like this one. We could do a whole North Korea thing and we could talk about this. It's from September 12th, though. North Koreans have grown more repressed, fearful in the past decade, UN report says. I bet they do. Okay. We shouldn't read that, though. It's old. Arms industry given direct influence over university courses. Declassified UK. Wow. All right. The LA Times. More about hot warehouse summer. Democracy Now. Okay. Sudan. Okay, I think that's enough. So I'm gonna sort through these, and then we're gonna choose 5 to do a little vote on. So, what is going on? Oh, okay. So here's what we got going on. So we've got too many options, so we'll narrow them down in a sec. So we have North Korea testing missiles. We have Wayback Machine and Internet Archive potentially going down. This would be catastrophic to me. This would ruin my life. Like, unironically, this would ruin my life. I'm going to spend the next 3 weeks downloading PDFs of everything to my computer. This is insane. Ugh! Okay. We got the Orban story. We have Eric Swalwell being a sexual misconductor. I was going to call him the R word, but then I was like, what if he sues me? I don't know how rich people go. I don't know how they move. Okay, then we got Sudan. We have UK new NATO expansion could lead to war with Russia. We got a little Ukraine-Russia. Arms industry given direct influence over university courses in the UK. This is LA Times. Hot Warehouse Summer is what that one is. We have Democracy Now! Saying Ireland Shannon Airport uses hatchet to damage U.S. military aircraft. Wait. The warehouse guy's facing life in prison? What the fuck? Okay, and then more Sudan. So let me group these really fast. We got this twice. Okay, yeah. Life in prison is insane for that. For property damage. Crazy. Okay, so how are we going to group these? We have North Korea. We have tech. We have Orban. We have sexual misconduct. We have Sudan. We have Russia. We have propaganda. We have Ireland. And we have Hot Warehouse Summer. This is kind of a lot. These are all good. These are all good. Okay, I'm going to see if there's anything that might not be enough for an article. Okay, so this might not be enough for a full discussion. This is pretty short, and it's just that the DPRK is testing missiles. Okay, so that makes sense. So we would have to go look for more supplementary stuff. So I'm going to get rid of this one. Hold on. We're not there quite yet. Sorry, with poll options. I have to narrow them down because you can only do 5. So I think that maybe we could do an info control, and it could include archiving, like a general info control, like propaganda kind of subject. That could be one. We could do Hot Warehouse Summer. Let's make that one. And then we have to narrow these down to just 2. We could do a general small foreign policy catch-up, because these are going to be like smallish stories probably. So this will be like foreign policy mashup, and that would be Hungary, NATO expansion, and Ireland, right? So that could be one. And then we could do Sudan, which is big foreign policy. That's going to be like its own kind of thing probably. That's 5. Is that okay? Do I need to redo them? I really am interested in this Eric Swalwell thing though, too. Yeah, let me relist them, because I need to, you know what? We're going to put Sudan in with a foreign policy, but it's going to be the leader, and then we're going to hit the 3. Okay, so this is where we're going to do it. We're going to do info control, and that's going to include, just so everybody knows for voting, propaganda in UK in the arms industry, and also Internet Archive. So info control. Then we're going to do Hot Warehouse Summer. Then we're going to do, oh, this is actually fine. Okay, Sudan. That can be its own. And then we're going to do foreign policy mashup. And then the 5th is going to be Eric Swalwell being a creep. Which is actually a really big story, which makes me more interested now. I'm like, Jesus. There's 5. So the text's going to be in with info control. Like, and the way it's going to work, if for anybody new, Virgo's going to make a poll, and then you're going to see the poll at the top of your chat. And if you don't see it, just refresh. It's up now, and you can vote. And voting is mandatory. Vote or gulag. Vote or gulag. Everybody vote. And while you vote, we're going to watch the only time improv has ever been socially acceptable. This one has almost 1 million views, so you've probably seen it. Maybe you haven't. We will watch it, though. It's very, very funny.
My name is Parker Sublette.
Hold on, we need audio. Switch up.
My claim is 2 + 2 = 5. You did miss the instruction. You did skip right past it.
I don't care, I'm eager.
Okay.
Parker, where are you from?
Oof, that's really gonna fuck me up right away. I'm from Los Angeles, California.
Parker, where's your family from?
My mom is from New York City, and my dad is from Erie, Pennsylvania.
Where's their family from?
My mom's family are Russian Jews, so it's kind of hard to track after a certain point. My dad's family are Polish, British, and French, so it's very, very easy to track.
My take is not that your math is wrong. It's that you thinking that your math is correct is racist.
That's very interesting.
You think that your European LA ass knows more about Arabic
Sonny,
numbers.
Sonny, can I interrupt you for a second?
Yes.
Where's your family from?
Canada.
Okay. And where are their family from?
France.
Okay. And
I...
Where it kind of stops at France?
It stops at France. And I side with centuries of Arabic scholars. I may be French, but I am an ally to that community.
Sonny, so that's beautiful. Let's give it up for allyship, yes.
Thank you, thank you.
We are trying to unify here, we are trying to learn. Arabic is the language. Arab is the word for the people, or the kind of scholars you might be discussing.
Totally.
Yes.
And yet you are still disagreeing with their years of scholarship, centuries.
Well,
even.
I'm disagreeing with you getting something wrong regarding racism. That feels actually kind of racist to me. We have, I don't know if you've heard, but our mayor, Zoran Mamdani,
yes,
got rid of racism last January. So I don't know how I can be racist when he is our mayor.
Okay. So I just think that there are a lot of white transgender women.
How did you know I was trans?
Girl. There are a lot of white transgender women who like to think that because they transition, they can do no harm to other marginalized communities. And I would argue that your thinking 2 + 2 = 5 is nothing but an extension of that.
That's very interesting. You have yet to disprove to me that 2 + 2 = 5.
I'm not trying to disprove that 2 + 2 = 5. I'm trying to prove that you and your ancestors are rotted to your core.
My name is...
Okay, so I think that's the only time improv's ever been funny, and this is the whole setup of their thing. It's fake Jubilee. And this is what they do. And this took me out. But this, to me, this video was so symbolic of dark woke mentality. But also what is dark woke mentality? Dark woke mentality is the realization that liberalism has failed you. And we need real solutions. And the sad thing is how many people flounder in that realization. It's easy to obviously make fun of liberalism. And that's what that video is. It's mocking liberalism. It's mocking the ineffectiveness of liberalism, right? And it's funny and it's very fucking poignant, but so many people fail to understand that that doesn't mean the answer is do nothing, right? Wither and cope. The answer is you become a Marxist. You become an actual socialist, an actual communist, and we actually can present solutions to these issues, right? So this is this interesting position we find ourselves in. It's an opportunity for us on the left to engage people because the masses know that liberalism is a joke and a failure. They know it, but how do we get them to see, yes, and, because it's improv, did you see what I did? Yes, and find your little path on your journey over to us. We actually want to do real shit about it and not create this ridiculous world of identity politics bullshit designed to trap you in a cage of inactivity, right? So, okay, yes, Virgo, what's up? What's up? I saw Hot Warehouse #1 in the chat. Oh, you're laughing at my yes and? Oh, okay, good. I was I missed something. Oh no, I'm just being funny. Okay, let's watch one more and then we'll get into the news. So the other one I watched was people in cities should not own dogs. But let's watch something new, something I haven't seen. Yes, no, totally. It is a lesson. I'm sorry, it's a lesson. It's a lesson. It is a good lesson though. Because you're like, damn, even the masses know this is bullshit now. Do you remember when you used to be like, identity politics is kind of whack and weird? People would be like, so you're a racist, you know? And you'd be like, no, I actually think we should do something about this. So I think it's like good though. It's cool. You're like, oh, holy shit, like this has 1 million views. People are like, damn, that shit is really ridiculous, isn't it? People from marginalized backgrounds are like, yeah, this shit's ridiculous. So it's like, oh, they're ready. They're ready. Yes. Okay. Hot Warehouse Summer, everybody. If you have your own links on Hot Warehouse Summer you want to send them while we pull up another one. Okay. I haven't seen this one. Let's watch this. I don't know if they're all going to be that good. I watched like 3 or 4 and they were all pretty good though.
My claim is that not only should the bus be free, but we should all have to take turns driving it.
Is that there are no good fast food restaurants.
The Cartoon Network was better than Disney Channel or Nickelodeon.
We got a mashup video. It's not the real video.
I think that being shy is annoying and ruins parties, and I think that everyone needs to go up.
It's weird if you don't share your location with your friend.
Do we have any fans of Ariana Grande?
Okay, we gotta watch a real one. That was a good teaser, though. I'm teased. You know? Let's see another. Okay, let's watch the bus one. I like the bus one.
Not only should the bus be free, but we should all have to take turns driving it.
Civic twice. I don't think I should be trusted with a bus.
As I mentioned, the driver will be sitting nearby, capable of stepping in at any time.
They're not fast enough for me. I got to. Also, I'm drunk. Okay. Everyone on the bus is drunk.
Danya, you don't think I'm drunk?
Hey, I don't trust you with a bus
You don't
either.
think the bus driver is drunk?
Listen, the bus driver's on coke.
This is
Okay?
New York City.
That is how it should be. They should be on coke and I should be drunk. That is.
And on that point, I will not argue with you. We're 100% agreement.
I think I win. Okay.
Would you not say that you drive better when you're drunk?
Oh, that's a good point.
Not only should the bus be free.
I love it. I think it's very funny. I think they're the only people allowed after the revolution. These are the only people allowed to do improv. They're the only ones. That's it. This will be the only improv group after the revolution. You heard it here first. They're allowed. Everyone else? No. I don't want it. I don't want to see it. I once lost a friend because I refused to go to their improv show. They were like, I just graduated from improv school. Will you come? And I was like, no. And they were like, what do you mean no? And I was like, no, I love you. Happy for you. Congrats. I'm not going to that. It was like 3 hours long. I didn't want to think less of my friend having to sit through it and have it be awkward, you know? But they were like, that's really offensive. And I was like, I thought it was a question that I could say no to, but apparently it's not. And that's how I learned that sometimes your friends ask you questions, but they're not really questions. You have to say yes. They should have said, I demand you come to my improv showing. And then I would have been like, well, I guess I don't have an option, right? Why didn't they just do that? I don't understand. But, you know, we learn. Okay. If that's all it took to lose a friend, it was bound to end. You're so right. Do we have a current tally of warehouse incidents? 6 warehouse incidents. I'm finding more. News, not videos. News. Is it warehouse? Do you guys have seen 6 warehouse fires? Really? I'm not seeing them anywhere. Who has? Okay, you got an ABC. Very autistic of me. I didn't know. Friends don't make friends watch improv.
The man who went viral for...
Oh, okay. Do we have more of these stories? I'm only able to find the one. They've been popping up a lot. Are they all fires? I'm searching. Warehouse arson. Trend. What else? Ontario Mall torch just 3 days after $650 million warehouse inferno. Okay. What else do we have? There's random warehouse fires like an Amazon warehouse, solar panels, an abandoned warehouse, Cali, New Jersey, and Miami. Username. Wait, is it username? Mame. I'll allow a little adventurism to hold us over until the proletariat gets their shit together. Hey, I'm not condoning adventurism, right? We can read the Lenin on adventurism just to have a good orientation, and then we can watch this as an understanding of where the masses are for research, so we know, right? Lenin's got a lot to say about adventurism. An Amazon warehouse worker died while working. Oh, God. Yeah. Lenin wrote about hot warehouse summer way back in 1902. So when we say every issue has been dealt with, they have. And this is really what Lenin's talking about here. So if we have time at the end, we're going to have a proper orientation on this. But Lenin... we social revolutionaries have never sympathized with opportunism, but we are overjoyed because of the criticism which has freed us of a dogma, right? This is what he's talking about here. The crisis of socialism makes it incumbent upon any in the least serious socialist to devote redoubled attention to theory, to adopt more resolutely a strictly definite stand, to draw a sharper line of demarcation between themselves and wavering and unreliable elements. Let us get to the second point, the question of terrorism. In their defense of terrorism, which the experience of the Russian revolutionary movement has so clearly proved to be ineffective, the socialist revolutionaries are talking themselves blue in the face and asseverating, I don't know this word actually, that they recognize terrorism only in conjunction with work among the masses, and that therefore the arguments used by the Russian Social Democrats to refute the efficacy of this method of struggle, and which have indeed been refuted for a long time to come, do not apply to them. Here is something very similar to their attitudes towards criticism is repeating itself. We are not opportunists, cry the social revolutionaries. At the same time, they are shelving the dogma of proletarian socialism for reason of sheer opportunist criticism and no other. We are not repeating the terrorist mistakes and are not diverting attention from work among the masses, the socialist revolutionaries assure us, and at the same time enthusiastically recommend to the party acts such as Balmashov's assassination of Sipiagin, even though everyone knows and sees perfectly well that this act was in no way connected with the masses. Okay, so, hear what he's saying. This act is in no way connected with the masses. And could not have been by reason of the very way in which it was carried out, that the persons who committed this terrorist act neither counted on nor hoped for any definite action or support on the part of the masses. So this is kind of what is Lenin's way of separating what is adventurism versus what is actually helping contribute to revolutionary action. And this is good orientation for us to keep in mind as we look at these things. Now, when we look at this guy, for example, we look at Luigi Mangione, we look at Hot Warehouse Summer, we look at somebody saying you should have paid us more. That does feel like the message is reflective of where the masses are. However, just lighting one warehouse on fire, right, that's more settling a personal score you have with capitalism, which I understand how people have that score. I understand why they're upset by that, right? But that's really where you call into question, was this an action that hoped for any definite support on the part of the masses? Was this a revolutionary call, or was this your personal frustrations with a system failing you? And that is how we separate what's adventurism and what's not. And if it's your personal frustrations from a human perspective, we understand that. We understand being personally frustrated, right? Is this the same one we have? Yes, thank you, Linda Speske. I think Lenin definitely would have, but Lenin probably would have called Mangione an adventurist had he been a Marxist-Leninist. But when we look at Mangione, if he is the person who did the crime, he's still alleged, right? when we look at his politics, we find that they were not very disciplined Marxist-Leninist politics. They were politics that are more indicative of where the masses are. They were a hodgepodge of vaguely left-leaning and often contradictory ideologies. This was not a person who was dedicated to developing an ideological practice. This was not a person who was part of a vanguard revolutionary movement. This was just a person who was like, this system is bad and hurting us, and it can't be all there is. And I think that's really also a defining kind of factor. What do you expect of the masses versus what do you expect of somebody who considers themselves to be part of a revolutionary vanguard, somebody who wants to work towards building a definite, sincere system, Marxist-Leninism? And the expectations you're going to have of these two people, it's going to be very different. You're going to expect them to conduct themselves differently. And you're also going to apply a different understanding to their motives and their goals, right? So I think that's important for us to keep in mind. Like, I am not going to condemn the masses, right, for having emotional outbursts at the wretched conditions that they increasingly find themselves in. I don't think my place is to judge them and condemn them for their actions, but it's also not my place to say, and this is revolutionary behavior that a vanguard party of Marxist-Leninists should look to for guidance or inspiration. Neither of those things, I think, are true. I think the correct way that we assess it is as a reflection of the frustrations of the masses and where they are, right? So I think that's the right way to think about it. So first time chat, counterculture cowpoke says, the story is so interesting to me because people in my life who are posting about Charlie Kirk's wife and kids and how no one deserves to die for their opinions have shifted further left and are condoning these acts of arson. Yes. So what we're really seeing is where the masses are. So I think to understand these actions as part of a revolution is a failed strategy. I don't think that's the right way to conceptualize it. Now, if this was a Marxist-Leninist org doing this, I think it would definitely fit Lenin's definition of adventurism, right? But these aren't. These are just people who have undisciplined political study but they don't. Most people don't have disciplined political study. They're just upset. They're just upset and they feel powerless, right? Hegel's big dialectical is the best way is to think dialectically. This is a heating up of the contradictions. Exactly. We are finding these to be people faced with the contradictions of capitalism, powerless, and not understanding the right course of action. And so this is natural. And I think we're going to see increased elements of this occurring in society as these contradictions ramp up. So Virgo says, I don't have a ton of information on what happened, but I thought it was physically impossible for Luigi to have moved from where they were shooting was to where he was seen the next time they passed. There's a good chance he's innocent, was just picked out to be a scapegoat. I've seen this too. So that's why I try to, whatever, alleged, we don't know. But whoever did this, right? So, yeah, I think this is interesting. So this is kind of what Lenin is talking about, is that if you are a communist, a Marxist-Leninist, a revolutionary, right? Just random acts of terrorism are not going to help you accomplish a revolution. And you have to differentiate the two. And how he differentiates the two is if people who commit a terrorist act don't count on or hope for the definite support or any follow-up action on part of the masses, they're basically doing adventurism, is kind of how he talks about it. So Lenin says, in their naivety, the socialist revolutionaries do not realize that their predilection for terrorism is casually most intimately linked with the fact that, from the very outset, they've always kept and still keep aloof from the working class movement, without even attempting to become a party of the revolutionary class, which is waging the class struggle. Over-ardent protestations very often lead one to doubt and suspect the worth of whatever it is that requires such a strong seasoning. Do not these protestations weary them? I often think of these words when I read assurances by the social revolutionaries. By terrorism, we are not relegating work among the masses into the background. After all, these assurances come from the very people who have already drifted away from the social democratic labor movement, which really rouses the masses. They come from people who are continuing to drift away from this movement, clutching at fragments of any kind of theory. So he really does position this as being the action that people who are politically undisciplined take. And it is what it is. You might see this and look at the masses and say, the masses seem to be approaching class consciousness. That's positive. We can work with that, right? You might look at this and say, this really has no utility for the masses. So anarchists can be considered adventurous. I personally, I don't know if this is a Marxist-Leninist position or just a Madeline position. I really think of anarchists as the masses. I do. I think of them as politically, I'm so sorry, I'm not trying to drag you guys, right? You're going to hear me say this, it's going to sound insulting. I don't know how to say it without insulting. I consider them to be politically undisciplined people with genuine and legitimate frustrations about capitalism, about their current position, about imperialism. And I think that they have not been able to successfully funnel that into a strong understanding of theory and a strong plan to build a revolutionary new world, a revolutionary new state. And so I often do think of anarchists and their ideologies and their positioning as being very representative of the masses. I mean, they don't like that because they think they're more enlightened than the masses, probably. I mean, I don't think they are. I think they are, in many ways, very truly, to their core, the undisciplined, less read masses. And that's why I think many people start out as anarchists and then they end up where we are, right? That was me. I was one of those people. Many such cases, right? Because then sometimes you find theory and you're like, well, I want to build something. I don't just want to break things down. I don't just want to destroy things. I want to think about what we build. And of course, anarchists will tell you they build through mutual aid, through community, and anarchists are great at mutual aid. They are great at mutual aid, the same way Christians can be great at charity. And that is good for communities and beneficial. But sometimes anarchists will find that's not enough. And they want systemic solutions that are larger scale, and that mutual aid cannot feasibly be a large-scale systemic solution. So they get on the pipeline, they start reading more, they start learning more, and they become Marxist-Leninists many times. So that is my general position on anarchists. And sometimes when I see anarchists do a little bit of chaos, like at an action or something, that's something that I'm like, of course, that is their role. That is their role. They are this element that we think of in many cases. They are this chaotic, frustrated representation of the masses. It's a little politically undisciplined, and we know their actions we know lighting a trash can on fire is not a revolution. We know that. We know lighting an Adidas store on fire is not a revolution, but we also recognize it to be the inevitable outcome of disgruntled masses who are angry at their positioning and understand that this is not the way things should be. Virgo says they hope for a revolution. I understand, but 6 warehouses is not a revolution. It's 6 warehouses out of how many in America? Plus the commodities produced out of the country and our colonies, etc. We see a slight pressure relief from the ruling class. We don't see revolution coming. Exactly. So this is why it's important for us to consider the utility of these actions. And to me, the position I always take is I don't consider these people revolutionaries, right? They're not revolutionaries. And I don't mean that to diss them. They are a true representation of the frustration of the disgruntled masses. And we are probably going to see this happen more and more and more again, right? And look at how the masses responded to Luigi Mangione. They understood. They understood why, if it was him, that happened. They understood the position that this shooting took in society. And that resonated with them. Right? And this is resonating with people as well. And that tells us that the masses are increasingly ready to become more class conscious, to become more politically literate, and to work towards a better future. Right? So they are disgruntled citizens. That is the way to think about them, with varying degrees of political literacy and varying degrees of well thought out planned political goals. This is not something we emulate as Marxist-Leninists who either are in or aspire to be in a Vanguard party. This is not something we're not going to be like, yeah, go light something on fire, you did a revolution. So it is our job to understand it, though, as a phenomenon of mass uprising and the dissatisfaction of the masses. Virgo says if there is to be revolutionary action, I think it would come from a response to how these warehouse fires are handled. If the state decides to crack down on us with force, the response to that force might be interesting, but I don't think that's the direction that exactly, that's true. But, our job, again, is not to condemn or condone. It's to understand it as an action of the masses. When adventurism. So we're doing the adventurism segment. Yes. So this, we'll talk about this more if we have time. This is the Lenin work on adventurism, but it is a little bit long. So I want to get into the articles first. And then if we have time left over, we'll come back and read a little bit more about this. Do we think PSL or FRSO are the Vanguard Party in the United States? I'm not sure, but PSL and FRSO work a lot together out in California. Where I live, we do a lot of coalition work as a whole state. So a lot of these parties all work together. I see PSL and FRSO work together. They did anti-Venezuela hostility, like anti-imperialist actions regarding Venezuela together in LA. So I think it is very, very feasible that out here in California, since we're so focused on coalition building, I think both PSL and FRSO, from what I have seen, are very open to coalition building. Even with people who aren't Marxist-Leninists. They do coalition building, both of those orgs, with labor groups, just like general labor groups, which some of them can be quite conservative, honestly. They do coalition building with Veterans for Peace. So, I think that it's feasible that in the future there would be some sort of coalition that's more tightly defined of multiple groups coming together that would include both of them. Virgo says, I think the closest thing we had to an actual Vanguard Party was the Black Panther Party. Yeah, I mean, I think the Black Panther Party was an amazing example for us all to admire, especially as California socialists. I look at them and I'm like, they did so many things correctly. Obviously, they had some issues too, right? Nobody's perfect. These parties are made up of people, and no people are perfect, and everybody's figuring it out as we go along. And our goal, obviously, is also not to demand perfection out of revolutionary groups. Nothing in society can be perfect. That would be utopian thinking, right? And the Black Panther Party, they had issues with misogyny in their party that were rightfully addressed by women Panthers, and they worked to address those things, etc. But yeah, I think that to me, they are the successful model, a very, very successful model for us in California. PYM, PSL, FRSO, and a few others work together in Dallas-Fort Worth area too, Comrade Thuggin says. Yes, and that's the Palestinian youth movement out there, right? I love the Palestinian youth movement people. We had some on our trip to Cuba. They were awesome. I love them. But I think the ones that came on our trip were mostly Bay Area. How do you contend with building a vanguard within a settler colony? Well, I think the important thing to remember is that, we're in the imperial core, right? So all of the places who've been colonized by the United States look at us and they say, when revolution happens in the imperial core, think about what that's going to do for the revolutionary opportunities of people around the world. So you have a harder challenge, certainly. You also have a bigger obligation, I think. So all of the parties that I'm aware of working out in California anyway, all also support indigenous movements, support the right, as Lenin said, for indigenous people to have self-determination in their land here in the United States, and also support things like land back movements, but those are pretty vague. Every tribe has a different definition of land back, so it varies from your place to place what people are asking for and what they really want, but working in coalition with them as well. And there's also a lot of indigenous communists out here in the United States too, and they also do coalition work. So I think this is something that is very, very compatible with a Marxist-Leninist ideology. And I would say in many ways a Marxist-Leninist ideology because of the addition of the Leninist concept of having the right to self-determination for oppressed and marginalized people. I think that framework is probably the only framework that would work in the United States, given the genocide against the indigenous populations here, given the genocide against Black Americans here. The only framework that's going to resolve these issues probably is the Marxist-Leninist framework, based on the history we've seen of that Marxist-Leninist framework working in the USSR with similar ethnic tensions, nationalist tensions, in Yugoslavia, even with their moves towards Western alliance, obviously, that they were forced into because of the embargo by the USSR. Even with that, the socialist framework still managed to put ethnic tensions at bay for many, many decades. We see that as being the best framework for that, I think. Virgo says, Comrade, there's a channel in the Discord called Local Cadre Organizing I created for the Bay Area. One Bay Area radical socialist. To share events happening in the Bay Area, please join the Discord. If you want to make other regional cadres, please feel free to do so. Yay, thank you. That's great. Thank you, Virgo. So, yeah. The Red Nation, excellent indigenous Marxist YouTube channel. I love the Red Nation. They also have online resources. I actually share their online resource about voting not being harm reduction from an indigenous perspective very, very often. This is really good to share with liberals, actually. Let me see if I can find it. When liberals misuse harm reduction, I like to send them this. Let's see if it loads. Oh, this is not the one I was thinking of, but this is from Indigenous Action. So this is one you can find online pretty easily, but let me see if I can find the actual one I was thinking of. I'm not able to find it really easily. But this is the Red Nation website, too, for Indigenous communists. They're a coalition of Native and non-Native activists seeking Native liberation. It's very, very cool. Where is their website's different than it used to be. It's changed a bit, but yeah. Yeah, it's great. I bring it up a lot too. It's great. How do you think we can pinpoint when there is a probable vanguard party? I mean, this is a question that is hard to answer because, the general belief is that you can't plan a revolution, you can't anticipate a revolution. Things happen. The masses have a revolution, right? And that's something that I think people get confused about too. The role of the vanguard party is not to create a revolution necessarily. It is to be ready when the masses have an inevitable revolution, because the conditions of capitalism are so extreme that when that revolution happens, you step in and you go, hi, let's not let this descend into chaos or another form of harm. We have a plan for how you build the better government, the better society now. Now, that doesn't mean that that Marxist-Leninists are never the vanguard party, the revolutionaries are never the same. That doesn't mean that. Like, if we look at Yugoslavia, very obviously, if we look at Mao, very often these were the same. But the conditions that lead to the start of the revolution usually are not planned by the communists. They are come from mass uprisings and mass kind of action, right? So sometimes you'll see conditions happen that are like these activation points for the masses, and you'll see that usually in those situations the Marxists want to seize upon that moment to give a proper orientation about the solution to that problem. And that's more the way to kind of think about it. Does that make sense? Yeah, you just can't create a revolution. Exactly. And usually it's some condition, something occurs that you can't control, and then the masses have a response that is stronger than you maybe thought, and you're like, oh wow, they're really activated by this. And then that is when there's like a capacity for revolutionary action, and that's usually when the Marxists get involved, and we're like, hi, we agree. And sometimes your revolutionaries will be the same people who lead a new government, right? Historically, looking at this historically, sometimes they'll be the same, sometimes they won't, sometimes they'll be different. The people who started the revolution in the what became the USSR, right? They weren't Marxist-Leninists who started that, right? But then the Marxist-Leninists got involved, and they were like, let's orient this in a direction that's going to ultimately lead to systemic long-term change. No, I was only able to find the one from the Indigenous Action Network, but it's still good. It's still good. I've seen that one as well. So I agree we need to start letting people know there is a plan. I feel like we're a small group. We need to spread the word. Yeah, so that's why I try to tell people, like, join a social stork. Even if you can't be in the social stork, join the Action Network. Become a part of these networks. There are people around you with plans. Melme says the native people here in South Africa are the majority, 80% of the population, and 9% of our overall votes goes to our biggest Marxist-Leninist party. Wow, that's really cool. That's very, very cool. Okay, so now that we have done a little bit of a disclaimer about how we view these acts, this adventurism, how we think about it, the proper orientation for it, we understand that these are frustrations of the masses. Let's get into talking about Hot Warehouse Summer. Yes? Yes. Okay. So, oh, yes. Okay, the question, just to clarify before we get on, how do we know we've reached the point of the country where we have achieved enough knowledge to successfully lead a work revolution toward... Some people have, like, numbers. They're like, well, like, when 10% of the population identifies this way, or, this is going to be easier for us. So people have different kind of ideas about where that marker is. I will say right now, it's pretty obvious that in the United States where I am, we are in definitely outreach education stages of everything. So... I think that different people have different theories about that, right? Just warehouse summer. All right, so let's get into this. All right. So, warehouse arsonist compared himself to Luigi Mangione, wanted to send a message, prosecutors say. The worker who burned down a warehouse full of Kimberly-Clark paper products in Ontario this week railed against corporations and compared himself to Luigi Mangione in messages to coworkers after starting the fire, authorities said at a press conference Friday. Now, Ontario is in California. Chamel Abdul Karim, 29, is facing both state and federal charges in connection with a fire that broke out at 12:30 a.m. Tuesday at a 1.2 million square foot warehouse in Ontario where 20 other people were working. Authorities say a video posted to social media shows Abdul Karim starting the fire. In the video, a voice is heard talking about workers' pay while a hand reaches out and starts to burn paper products stocked on a pallet, as other small fires are already burning in the background. According to First Assistant U.S. Attorney Bill S.A. Lee, the top federal prosecutor in Los Angeles, Abdul Karim started the fires, then texted a coworker afterwards, comparing himself to Mangione, the 27-year-old man who has become an anti-capitalist folk hero after allegedly killing the chief executive of United Healthcare on a New York sidewalk. Videos Abdul Karim uploaded to Facebook show him saying, "If you're not going to pay us enough to fucking live or afford to live, at least pay us enough to not do this shit." According to U.S. Attorney's Office for the Central District of California. Prosecutors allege that he texted others and offered his reasoning for the arson. "I just cost these, I don't know, I'm guessing fuckers, billions," he wrote. He also mocked the 1%, meaning the world's richest people, prosecutors said. "Pay us more than the value we bring, not corporate. Didn't see the shareholders picking up a shift," Abdul Karim allegedly said over a text message. "Look, America is founded on free enterprise and capitalism," Saley said. "Anyone who attacks our values, our way of life, our system, which provides the best goods and services to the most people," citation needed, "we're going to come after aggressively." Now, what are they really saying here? They're saying anybody who attacks capitalism as a system, we are going to come after aggressively, right? They're telling you all of the things out loud that the communists have been saying, right? The legal system exists to protect corporations and companies in capitalism. And this is also why we say these people aren't going to let you vote your way probably out of capitalism. They're telling you, we're going to do everything in our power to stop you from threatening capitalism, right? So San Bernardino County District Attorney Jason Anderson says he has charged Abdul Karim with 1 count of aggravated arson and 6 counts of arson of a structure. Abdul Karim faces 10 years to life in prison if convicted on all counts. That's crazy. The fire destroyed some $500 million in paper products and destroyed the warehouse valued at $150 million, Anderson said. "Arson to me is a real head scratcher. I do not understand. Somebody who is suspected of arson does something where they get no value of it other than to displace people from their jobs, to ruin commerce, to get in the way of labor, to put people in physical harm." I think this wording is really interesting, and I want to take a second to talk about it. Look at the positioning. First of all, when we talk about rad libs, when Marxists are like, "Oh, they're rad libs, they're radical liberals," what does that mean? What are they really saying? They're saying that people are appropriating the language of revolutionaries and using it to justify maintaining the current system. And this is what is happening here, right? Get in the way of labor, displace people from their jobs, right? This is kind of like, we're pro-labor is the general language being used here, right? But then they're also like, to ruin commerce. Oh my God, commerce, not commerce, our big God, not the God of Adam Smith, right? So I just think this is interesting wording coming from him. Yeah, same vibes as protesting in the streets as blocking traffic in the spot. Exactly. So we want to be certain, at least for our residents, as sensitive as we are to arson in this county, particularly in Southern California, that these crimes are taken very, very seriously. When firefighters first arrived, they were quickly forced out of the building due to extremely rapid fire growth and assumed a defensive position, battling the blaze with high-volume hoses, according to the Ontario Fire Department. The conflagration caused the building's roof to collapse and escalated to a 6-alarm fire, requiring the response of around 175 firefighters. Abdul Karim was arrested in connection with the blaze later that morning. He was employed by NFI Industries, a third-party distribution company for Kimberly-Clark products, fire officials said. He will face state charges first. Okay, so this is the story. This is what we know. I think this is just really interesting because we look at him and he's clearly using anti-capitalist talking points, Abdul Karim, right? He's saying, where was it? Pay us more of the value we bring, not corporate. Didn't see shareholders picking up a shift. The value we bring. This is like, this is a Marxist idea that the workers are the ones who create the value. Verified as not a Rickroll. Can I trust this? Can I trust this? Should I watch it now or should we watch it after? Yeah, Lilith Smash Ultra. Yeah, Val, you mentioned spitting. Okay. Verify too. Yes, okay. I got blocked. Whoever it is, they blocked me. I love when that happens. I'm blocked. Why do these people block me? Is it about me? It always happens. They always have me blocked. I don't know why. Why does this keep happening? I don't know. They really don't like me. They really don't like me. It's very, very funny. I don't know why. Are they like, spell Lebanon? Well, they hate me. Chinese mustard copy. Okay.
I want to talk about how voting isn't harm reduction. And
I love
Juicy
Crown.
This is not a video about how you should or should not vote. This is a video about why voting for the lesser of two evils is not harm reduction. Choosing the lesser of two evils is a strategy of scale, whereas harm reduction is a philosophy of care. When we're saying less here, it's a comparison between two things, usually. But that's not what harm reduction is. Harm reduction is not a comparison between two bad things. So when you choose somebody because they are the lesser of two evils, you're not practicing harm reduction. You're just practicing damage control. Let's give an example. Super abstract. Person A wants to cause 100 units of harm. Person B, they think that's extreme. They want to keep that at 70. At nowhere along the line has harm been reduced. All that we've done is give ourselves a target for a baseline level of harm that we find acceptable, which at this point would be 70 units as opposed to 100. Something very important to understand about harm reduction is that it is usually about introducing resources to help eliminate the harm around something without requiring abstinence of the substance. This is why it's talked about in terms of needle exchanges. What's the harm there, okay? It's the spread of infectious diseases. This is why harm reduction is a public health term. You introduce clean needles in a syringe exchange program to reduce or eliminate the harm the needle causes, the spread of infectious disease. That is harm reduction. When you vote for 70 units of harm versus 100 units of harm, you're still moving with what person A with the 100 units of harm wants, just at a slower pace and a slower timeline. If person A is like, I'm gonna punch you 10 times, and person B is like, I'm only gonna punch you 5, there's no harm that's been reduced there. Either way, someone is still gonna deliver a punch to you. Harm reduction in the punch scenario is, how do we stop the punch from happening entirely, or how do we give you a helmet, give you something to protect you from the harm? I especially want to talk about this because I've been getting a couple of comments, and I'll show you this one because it was very popular, about how I've been blocking people who call me out on Kamala being better for trans rights. First of all, whether it feels good or not, she did not win. So we can't make the argument that she would be better because we do not know. It is impossible to know. It did not happen. That can be a really tough pill to swallow, and it can sound like I'm like trolling, but I'm not. This is the reality of the situation. The other reality of the situation is that she was still accepting a baseline level of harm against the trans community by saying that she would, and she encourages her constituents to follow the law.
This question, very broadly speaking here.
Sure.
Do you believe that transgender Americans should have access to gender-affirming care in this country?
I believe we should follow the law.
The law is harm. The law was harm introduced. She's not seeking to eliminate or reduce that harm. She's not seeking to give extra resources to protect that community from harm. She's accepting the baseline level of harm that we currently have. You are not entitled to me. I want you to repeat that to yourself. You are not entitled to me. So if I'm getting misinformation, if I don't think a comment is going anywhere, if you're a commenter and you have rancid vibes, I am allowed to block you. Full stop. The reason I block sometimes is because it's very, very frustrating for someone who has worked in harm reduction to see such a flippant, flagrant, and weaponized misuse of harm reduction to justify electoralism, and that's it.
Okay, so this is Juicy Crone. Juicy Crone is one of my mutuals on TikTok, full disclosure. I love Juicy Crone. I think following Juicy Crone is good. I think that so she's been the current target of a lot of liberal and anarchist hate lately, and she made this video because she's been getting dogpiled pretty aggressively right now. She's getting the Madeline Pendleton treatment on TikTok for just being a Marxist, basically. So this is her profile. I really recommend you follow her. She's awesome. I like her a lot. So that's what we were just watching. I don't think she's a DPRK head, but she's not DPRK averse. She's like an actual Marxist. She's like a Marxist-Leninist for sure. She has videos, yeah, about Lockheed, etc. Okay, so we figured out the person who blocked me had like free the Uyghurs in her bio on TikTok, so that's why. That makes sense. Why she would want to block me. So, all right. So that was somebody that don't block that Juicy Crone. Juicy Crone's great. Go watch Juicy Crone, follow Juicy Crone. We like that. People are just sharing some TikToks and we're just kind of jumping in here. Car has this person. Oh, I know who this person is. Yes. Yes. I know who this person is. Hold on. Ugh! Sorry, I'm trying to get the link. All right. So this person has me blocked, but I know who this is. Yes. Yeah, this is a weird Free the Uyghurs person. This is I think this is just like a propagandized lib, but they're talking about Israel and Lebanon. Let's watch that at the end so we can get through all the adventurism stuff first. The first person, Juicy Crone, with a 0 instead of an O. The Palestine group is Palestinian Youth Movement, PYM. They're great. I recommend them. They're good people. So... yeah. Okay, so what does all of this have to do with adventurism? So Virgo made a video that was shared about the Democrats being a pressure valve. And so I think this ties into the Democratic Party, to electoralism, to why Democrats and liberals, Democrats in the United States, liberals just globally, why they hate people with left-wing politics so much is because they do exist to be a pressure valve. When we were looking at the video that Carr provided, I think it was Carr who provided yesterday, about the Labour Party in the UK, failing to actually protect workers and protect labor. I think I remember this video Virgo made, and it was really, really good, and I want to watch this now because I think it relates to this. What is going to happen as we see Asalee, for example, here, co-opting the language of labor, right? Co-opting it to defend capitalism and this neoliberal system that harms workers. As we see people like this saying, I don't understand arson. Where did he say this? To get in the way of labor. He's attempting to co-opt the language of labor and reroute it back into support for the mainstream system, the existing system, capitalism. And I think this ties into the Juicy Crone video, to the video of Virgos that I want to watch. Because this is what the liberals are designed to do. Mainstream liberal parties in the United States, the Democratic Party, they are designed to give you something safe to funnel that frustration into. So I think this is all, thank you, Virgo. I think I do have it here. Hold on. I got it in my paste. All designed to do this.
Once again, I am reminding you that the Democrats are not a harm reduction choice. Harm reduction is a system that reduces harm for everyone. The Democrats are a safety valve. Safety valve theory is where politically you protect the fewest amount of groups possible to keep the whole system from collapsing. The Democrats are not harm reduction. They do not reduce harm. They selectively choose who gets to feel relief from pressure. That is a safety valve.
This was not the video I was thinking of. You had another video that was really good that talked about it too. I liked this, what I just had. But yes, Virgo is correct. And how does this play into what Juicy Crone was saying about Democratic Party is not doing harm reduction? How does this tie into Hot Warehouse Summer and adventurism? And really, this is all one narrative. And the narrative is that as the contradictions of capitalism become more and more unbearable, people will be lashing out. They will be seeking something. And the role of liberals, more progressive liberals, social democrats even, is to step in and say, oh my God, I see you're totally frustrated, bestie. I have a solution for you that preserves the status quo 99.999% of the time, but it's 0.00001% progress. And that is what they're going to take all of these people's frustrations and attempt to take this mass movement that could be building and funnel it into and channel it into that. And that is why it is important to remind people electoralism is not a viable path to save us from this. However, we obviously engage in electoral politics because that is where the masses are, to use that as an opportunity to remind people we need to build a new system that does not create these conditions. And that is really where all of this loops in together. So we have the masses acting out. We're probably going to see a lot more of this. They are getting very, very frustrated. They are not necessarily politically dialed in, but they are politically literate enough to understand that this has something to do with capital and power over them. And yeah, it's not going to be our job to tail that, but it is our job to funnel that frustration into something that's not a progressive liberal agenda, a social democrat agenda, right? But into something that actually has the capacity for revolutionary change. So I think that's where this all comes in. I think Virgo has great content. I think everybody, if you're not already following Virgo, you should follow Virgo on TikTok. So that's kind of what I think the takeaway is from all of this. Now, this is another story about the same thing. He pled not guilty. This is kind of an update. So Chamel Abdul Karim, a 29-year-old resident of Highland, is facing several arson charges in San Bernardino County. So for those of you guys who don't know, San Bernardino County is the county east of Los Angeles County. And it's the biggest county, I believe, in terms of population in the United States. Yes, follow Virgo or Gulag, I agree. If that number hasn't changed. I'm pretty sure it is, though. Very, very populous. But it's very, it's not an urban metropolitan area. So it is an area that's very similar to where I grew up, Fresno, the California Central Valley. There's a lot of economic depression there. It's large expanses of nothingness, very suburban, a lot of new developments. There are areas that are very high crime, very low income. So it is an area you would see activity like this, basically. And I think that's relevant to this as well. So he faces several years in prison if convicted as charged on local and federal charges. In a phone call to one witness, the defendant compared himself to Luigi Mangione. U.S. Attorney Bill Asaley said at a Friday morning news conference, referencing the murder suspect charged in the death of Brian Thompson, the CEO of the United States' biggest health insurer. Look, America is founded on free enterprise and capitalism. We've got the quote again here in this article. The inferno erupted early around Tuesday morning last week, destroying the 1.2 million square foot warehouse. He's got the same quote here. We're going to come after anybody who threatens capital is essentially what he's saying. We know that. That is what they do. No one was injured in the blaze. That's important to note. So clearly he didn't want to harm people. He wanted to harm capital. And that's the type of stuff. That's the type of frustration we're going to keep seeing from the masses. Yuan says, would you say these bursts of political engagement that ultimately end in very little benefit, Sanders, AOC, etc. campaigns, serve to dissolve potential mass engagement? Yeah, I think that they really try to funnel it into something they can control. And here in California, we're seeing that a lot. So we are running Marxist-Leninists in California in our Vote Socialist campaign. And one of the Marxist-Leninists we are running is a man named Eduardo Lalo Vargas, right? And Vargas is running for insurance commissioner, and his platform is that he wants to abolish insurance companies. And this is very, very popular in California, even with Republicans, Democrats, Republicans. Everyone here hates insurance companies, and the reason is that because we've been having increased natural disasters due to climate change, increased fires, a lot of people, especially in rural areas of California, they are having their houses burned down in these fires. The fires are disproportionately affected wooded rural areas. Rural areas in California are very, very conservative, very Republican traditionally, which surprises a lot of people, but it's true. So the rural conservative population is actually having their houses burned down, filing claims with their insurance companies, and the insurance companies are either going out of business or denying their claims. And then every homeowner is getting their insurance rates jacked up super high now. So what's going on is that regardless of your political affiliation, if you live in California, odds are you hate insurance companies right now. You hate them. So this will be like a rural conservative, well-off white family will experience this. And on the flip side, the Altadena fires, they affected a predominantly Black homeowner community, which is very, very rare in an area called Altadena. This was historic rates of Black homeownership that were not very common in Los Angeles. These people are not necessarily as high income, not as mobile. They were able to purchase their homes in an area that was not as affected by redlining, but they don't have a lot of extra money. Many of them are old. Many of them paid off their mortgages years ago and are living just paying property taxes very, very little. They can't afford to instantly go jump into paying massive amounts of money of rent, and their house is burned down. And there's no recourse for them as well. So hating insurance companies is becoming this very politically unifying thing out in California. We all hate insurance companies. So when Lalo Vargas is running saying, I'm going to abolish insurance companies, he starts polling high. He starts polling like neck and neck with Democrats. And California gets really stressed out. So the Republicans and the Democrats do two different things, which are very indicative, right? And this is why I would say Democrats, Republicans are selling you the same product. They just have different sales pitches. Well, what's the product? The product is private insurance companies in this situation. Capitalism, right? They get paid, they get lobbied by private insurance companies. Insurance companies spend hundreds of millions of dollars lobbying politicians every single year. So what do? Well, each of them want to stop Lalo. And that's what we're seeing now. They want to stop Lalo. And Lenin said this would happen. When you participate in electoralism as a Marxist-Leninist, it showcases to the masses the limitations of the system. So this is what's happening now. The limitations of this system in California are getting exposed because you don't actually have democracy. Because now we got this guy running who wants to abolish the insurance companies. Well, you don't actually have democracy. You have a dictatorship of the bourgeoisie. And the bourgeoisie, guess what? They own insurance companies. And they're not going to let it happen. So what do? Well, the Democrats respond by putting out a fake socialist candidate, an AOC type, in the position of insurance commissioner. Last minute. She wasn't running before. Her name's Jane Kim. And she's running on this thing called the Working Families Party, which tries to present itself like it's different than the Democrats. It's not. It's the progressive branch of the Democratic Party. So she's running saying, well, we should just reform them. They can be saved, okay? And they are trying to channel the people who are excited by Lalo's campaign into voting for her instead. That is what they're doing. They're trying to pressure valve. They're trying to funnel that revolutionary spirit that, yeah, fuck these insurance companies into something that still works to support the neoliberal, pro-capitalist, pro-owning class agenda. Now, the Republicans, they're doing a Republican thing. They're introducing legislation actually to say that you cannot be insurance commissioner in California unless you have managerial, like executive experience in an insurance company. That's their solution. They're literally just like mask off, like, no, you got to be an insurance exec to serve in this government role now. So that's what's going on. This is their solution to it. So very much so we see the AOC, the Bernie Sanders types. These people exist. AOC more than Bernie Sanders. I think Bernie Sanders is just a confused dumb-so. But I think AOC is very much almost like an industry pluck and plant for the Democratic Party to funnel your frustrations back into electoralism, back into the Democratic Party. No King's Day. A great example of that as well. And that's why so many Marxists are trying to co-opt No King's Day and take it back. And I know it's a struggle. I know Virgo was out at a No King's Day. I've never been to a No King's Day. But I admire people who are trying, but that's what they tried to do with that too. They tried to take the movement and funnel it and neuter it. That's what they want to do. They want to neuter it and they want to put it into something that ultimately serves to benefit them still in the end. Right? Controlled opposition. Yeah. Bernie, I think that look, we have evidence that the Democratic Party really tried to bar Bernie Sanders from running. That lawsuit just came out that found that the Democratic Party intentionally barred and manipulated situations so Bernie Sanders could not be the nominee for the Democratic Party, but said that they were well within their right to do so. So I don't think the Democratic Party was into Bernie Sanders. I think he was actually a little too lefty for them. We know Bernie Sanders, social democrat, Zionist, not our guy, right? But he was even too much for the Democratic Party. AOC, I think they really plucked her from obscurity and threw her out there. Yeah. You were there with a mutual we share. It was really fun to make fun of all the signs, but the conversations with people were really distressing. Yeah, I can imagine. Yeah. So at this stage, I would not be surprised if the Democratic Party tries to find additional utility in Bernie Sanders, because as the masses become more outraged and start looking further left for real political opportunities outside of what the dictatorship of the bourgeoisie, the dictatorship of the rich guys, the owning class, the capitalists, what they can realistically offer, I think the Democrats are going to be trying to make more concessions to be the pressure valve, to just like, oh, we'll give you a little more. And I would not be surprised if we see the Democratic Party start to embrace Bernie Sanders a little bit more in order to be that pressure valve. And it's just a matter of if he'll play ball or not with them, right? Mallory says the rising tide of adventurism is only getting higher. I agree. We're going to see, I think, probably more and more and more of this. So very, I don't know, just important to remember that all this stuff works together and plays on. So is this the same guy? Oh, this is an Abdul. I'm like, this guy's hot. What? Who is this beautiful man? This is a Rancho guy. Okay, so this is a different story. Okay. So we're gonna read about this hot guy. How would you say he's fire? Okay, this is a hot warehouse summer, this guy. Okay, Ontario Mills arson suspect due in court tomorrow. This is from April 13th, so this is from yesterday. Just days after a massive inferno tore through a 1 million square foot Kimberly-Clark warehouse in Ontario, another man reportedly started several fires inside the Ontario Mills Mall, forcing an evacuation and shutdown of the shopping center. Investigators said crews with the Ontario Police and Fire Departments responded to reports of the April 10th incident around 10:30 a.m. The Ontario Police Department received several calls for service regarding a suspicious male at the Ontario Mills Mall. Officers assigned to the mall quickly located the male inside one of the stores. He's from Rancho Cucamonga. Rancho guy for our fellow IE friends out there. 28-year-old Rancho man arrested for starting these fires. Luis Javier Gallegos Jr. was taken into custody after initially resisting arrest and allegedly attempting to grab an officer's gun, prompting police to use force during the arrest. Okay. Gallegos, who does not work in the mall, reportedly started fires inside True Religion, Marshalls, Nordstrom, and North Face. This is how you know, though, he was politically confused because he would have skipped Marshalls, I think. I guess it wasn't a Ross Dress for Less, though. So who knows? After learning that Gallegos had been carrying a backpack, authorities shut down the mall while K-9 units swept the facility for possible explosives. One mall employee who has to remain anonymous told KTLA's Shelby Nelson that the fire alarm went off around 10:15 a.m. and continued sounding for about 30 minutes before everybody was evacuated. The police officers were able to get us out before anything bad happened, she said. Several of the affected stores sustained damage and remained closed as merchandise, carpets, and floors continued to dry after being doused with water by firefighters in the mall's sprinkler system. Repairs will also be needed at stores like True Religion Jeans, where heavy fire damage was visible inside the shop. I'm going to level with you guys. I was not aware that True Religion Jeans still had stores in the year of our Lord 2026. Ironic that I said year of the Lord. I just saw this question from Lennox. No, I'm an atheist. This is pretty wild. I'm like, the wildest part of the story to me is that True Religion Jeans has stores in the mall. So, Ontario Mills shopper Austin Malcolm told KTLA the incident highlights how unpredictable situations can be in crowded public spaces. Anytime you're in a populated area, you don't know if someone's going to do something crazy. This is not normal. I just want to say, somebody doing something crazy in a populated area, this is not an issue that people deal with in societies where their needs are met. This is not common in China, for example, right? This is people who are frustrated and upset with the political system. We know the way that you stop crime is to prevent crime. How do you prevent crime? Meet people's basic needs. So, a car managed to radicalize an old man in your local Unitarian Universalist church. That's cool. The Unitarians are pretty cool. The Unitarians used to let us do food, not bombs when I was an anarchist in their kitchen, their church kitchen. Yeah. So I think this is important to note, though. It's like how we just kind of are like, oh yeah, mass shootings are normal now. That's not normal. In the United States, we literally are just like, oh yeah, that happens. That's not normal other places, right? So we have just kind of, normalized this, where you're like, well, if you're out in public, someone's going to try to kill you because they're mad at the government. That's just how it goes. And like, it's not normal. That is a sign, again, of the contradictions of capitalism and like the decay of the capitalist society we exist in, right? So, whether investigators believe Gallegos took inspiration from 29-year-old Kamel Abdul Karim, the suspect accused of starting the Kimberly-Clark warehouse fires, remains unclear. So far, police have not disclosed a motive in Gallegos' case, but they said they were investigating possible connections to the warehouse fire. Okay, so we don't know. So we don't know if this was politically motivated or what. If he just loves setting fires. We have no idea. All we know is he didn't work at the mall, so it's not like a workplace dispute. Right? So that said, we do have time to get into a little bit more of this Lenin work, and I know it's not Theory Thursday, but I think it is interesting to talk about, right? In this capacity. I think it's relevant for us. So the question is, where do we want to start and where do we want to end? The more Lenin, the better, right? Every day can be Theory Thursday, Theory Tuesday. So let's just start at the beginning and see how much we can get through, okay? So Lenin says in Revolutionary Adventurism, we are living in stormy times. And again, this is 1902 that this was written. This is before the Russian Revolution. We are living in stormy times when Russia's history is marching on with 7 league strides, and every year sometimes signifies more than decades of tranquility. And this might start to sound familiar to you. If you live in the United States, you might kind of feel this. If you live in other hyper-capitalist places, if you're South Korean, for example, you might start to feel this. Results of the half-century of the post-reform period are being summed up, and the cornerstone is being laid for social and political edifices, which will determine the fate of the entire country for many, many years to come. Like, I feel that as an American. This could be written now. Yeah, even before the 1905 revolution, right? The revolutionary movement continues to grow with amazing rapidity, and our trends are ripening and withering uncommonly fast. Trends firmly rooted in the class system of such a rapidly developing capitalist country as Russia almost immediately reach their own level and feel their way to the classes they are related to. An example is the evolution of Mr. Struve, from whom the revolutionary workers proposed to tear the mask of a Marxist only 1.5 years ago, and who has now himself come forward without a mask as the leader or servant of the liberal landlords, people who take pride in their earthiness and their sober judgment. On the other hand, trends expressing only the traditional instability of views held by the intermediate and indefinite sections of the intelligentsia try to substitute noisy declarations for rapprochement with definite class. Declarations which are all the noisier, the louder, the thunder of events. At least we make an infernal noise. Such is the slogan of many revolutionary-minded individuals who have been caught up in the maelstrom of events and who have neither theoretical principles nor social roots. Right? Okay, so infernal noise, very telling here, right? The fire. This is very relevant to hot arson summer. So what he's saying is there were a lot of people who were interested in revolution who were caught up in what's going on. They don't have strong theoretical principles, though. They aren't super tied to social roots, to mass movements, to what's going on around them. And they think that the most important thing we could do is make some noise. Raise awareness, right? At least we're doing something, right? And this reminds me of that tweet that's like, people will be like, oh, you vote, that fails in comparison to my strategy, which is firebombing a Walmart, and then not even firebomb a Walmart. That tweet that's really, really popular. It's very, very funny. But that is the general idea that many liberals have of people with left-wing politics. They think our politics are firebomb a Walmart, right? That's what they think the revolution is. And that's actually that same mindset. That's what Lenin is talking about here. At least we make an infernal noise. These are people who are revolutionarily minded, but they're caught up. They're distracted. Their head's not in the right place. They're not reading their theory. They're not keeping up with their theory. And they don't have roots in these mass organizations, certainly, but also in like socialist organizations and groups, etc. It is to these noisy trends that these socialist revolutionaries, whose physiognomy is emerging more and more clearly, also belong. And it is time for the proletariat to have a better look at this and form a clear idea of the real nature of these people, who seek the proletariat's friendship all the more persistently, the more palpable it becomes to them that they cannot exist as a separate trend without close ties with a truly revolutionary class of society. So, in his time, these people were called the socialist revolutionaries. All right? This is a group of people who wanted to light trash cans on fire, more or less. Their version of lighting trash cans on fire. That's how I think of it. I'm like, the anarchists, they want to light trash cans on fire. It's not all they want to do. I know, I understand. But, you know, there's certain people to whom the idea of a revolution is lighting a bunch of trash cans on fire. That's what I always say. So this is their version at this time of the people who want to light trash cans on fire. This is the socialist revolutionaries. And he's saying these people are trying to present themselves to the working class and be like, yeah, we're part of you. We're one of you. And he's like, but they're really not. And it's not truly a revolutionary idea. So when he says socialist revolutionaries, we don't have a firm group like that. Like, we don't have like a socialist terrorist group basically operating in the United States, certainly where I live, maybe where you guys live, you might. But they just substitute and maybe these people with vague political leanings doing random acts here or there. And they're doing them more individually here in the United States where I live. It doesn't appear to be a network or a group, so it's going to feel a little bit different. But I would guess that as the contradictions of capitalism emerge more and more and more, we probably will start to see groups like this emerging within the next few decades. And that's something for us to be aware of. Might be a condition that comes out from this, right? Yes, that's the link that London's Best Gay sent, yes. So, 3 circumstances have served most to disclose the true face of the socialist revolutionaries. These are, first, the split between the revolutionary social democrats and the opportunists, who are raising their hands under the banner of the criticism of Marxism. Secondly, Balmashov's assassination of Sapiegan and the new swing towards terrorism in some sentiments by some revolutionaries. So these are things that are very specific to what's going on in Russia. We read a little bit of this, right? So you know, this stuff isn't going to be super relevant to you, but just really start to think about your country, where you are, what conditions you have that seem similar to this. Thirdly, and mainly, the latest movement among the peasantry, which is compelled such that they are accustomed to sit between 2 stools and have no program whatever to come out post factum with some semblance of a program. And this is interesting because we know the peasants, peasants historically have actually led some of the most successful worker revolutions that have the potential to stick around for a long time. So we should proceed to examine these 3 circumstances, with the reservation that in a newspaper article it is possible to give only a brief outline of the main points in the argument, and that we shall in all likelihood return to the subject and expound in greater detail in a magazine, article, or pamphlet. He's like, this is going to be brief, it's just for a newspaper. So, he says, the socialist revolutionaries decided to come out with a theoretical statement of principle, but only in issue number 2 of their paper. It was in an unsigned editorial headed "The World Progress and Crisis of Socialism." So these people who are coming out doing this kind of stuff, they come out and they're like, "Oh, we got a plan. We have a plan. Don't worry. Here's our plan." And they finally drop it at the time. And hold on. Yeah, we have a really nice gifting community here. A lot of people gift subs. It's really, really cool. And I appreciate it too, because you guys know I get to use this money to do like revolutionary minded activities. Not as you might think. But you know, just like Cuba to help. Or, you know, this month I'm going to be going to Fresno to help them with their Vote Socialist outreach, things like that. And it really does help a lot. So I appreciate it. Okay. We strongly recommend, he says, this article to all who want to get a clear idea of utter unprincipledness and vacillation in matters of theory. So this is Lenin being bitchy, right? Mallory, my fertilizer's on the way. I mean, what I mean is, you know, the spirit of the revolution. I'm not gonna firebomb a Walmart, federal government. That is not what I'm saying. Okay. So, yeah, Lenin here is throwing shade. He's like, you know what? You should go read it. Go read what these people think that their goal is. Go see that they lack theory, that this is not an alternative for being, theoretically developed and well-principled as a Marxist. And he says you should also see it as an example of the art of concealing behind a spate of rhetoric. And this also reminds us, people will co-opt the language. They will use the language, but sometimes they won't know what that means. Like, when we look at this Abdul Karim, and I'm not condemning this man, I'm not condoning him. Again, we're just using him as a case study. He's using the language, right? He says, pay us more for the value we bring. This is Marxism. The workers bring the value, and they're using that. Now, in our situation here, this is just one man, and this is not a group trying to position themselves as a revolutionary alternative to a Marxist-Leninist Vanguard party that we have to now critique in a formal way. We're not experiencing that. But this is what Lenin was experiencing at the time. He was experiencing a whole group of guys like this who were coming together and saying, hey, the Marxists under Lenin, the Bolsheviks, they don't actually have a plan, right? We have a plan. And our plan is a bunch of trash cans on fire, follow us. And that makes the conditions for Lenin critiquing him a lot different than the conditions for us understanding this person as a byproduct of capitalism today. So Lenin now is in a position where he's like, hey, don't follow these guys down that path. That path is not going to lead to revolution, right? And he says they don't have a strong theory. They're not very principled. And also they're concealing their lack of a plan behind rhetoric. And this does kind of ring true here, right? The rhetoric is there. Pay us more for the value we bring, not corporate. And that is true. And again, we're not tasked with critiquing this man because it is not relevant to our experience today. But Lenin was, and that was important for them to note at that time. So the entire content of this highly noteworthy article may be expressed in a few words. Socialism has grown into a world force. Socialism, Marxism, is now splitting as a result of the war of the revolutionaries, the orthodox against the opportunists. We socialist revolutionaries, of course, have never sympathized with opportunism, but we are overjoyed because of the criticism which has freed us from a dogma. We, too, are working for a revision of this dogma, and although we have as yet nothing at all to show by way of criticism, except bourgeois opportunistic criticism, although we have as yet revised absolutely nothing, it is nevertheless that freedom from theory which redounds to our credit. Now, you're going to hear this a lot. You hear this a lot from liberals, certainly. You hear this from anarchists sometimes. They really feel that they are people free of theory and that gives them some sort of standing and credit. Right? And I think that's very relevant to us today. We encounter this quite a bit. So that redounds to our credit all the more because as people free of theory, we stand firmly for general unity and vehemently condemn all theoretical disputes over principles. And this is the mindset he's saying that people have. When you're free of theory, you can be welcoming to everyone. And nobody needs to argue too much about where we're going. Just get on board. And yes, Lord Oxy, my head is empty. I'm superior. Exactly. And while you see the utility certainly in coalition building, you see the utility in talking to other people who have differences in opinion, especially in this kind of building stage and mass education stage, etc. This is not that, right? This is something different. This is people telling you you don't need to have a plan or program. You just need to light more trash cans on fire, babe, and everything will happen. Yeah, Cart, I'll take a look. I have one. Hold on. I'll save this really fast in my copy in my clipboard. Okay. And that's interesting. And I think we can see a lot of that. And this is the position liberals try to take a lot now. They don't need theory. They don't need to read Marx. They live it. They got it. They know better. They are able to talk to everybody. They can relate to everyone. And it's like, well, you can't. Because you're not relating to people who are demanding more. You're not relating to people who are demanding a plan. Right? By any means necessary, when seize the means of production becomes burn the trash bins of consumption. Yes. So, a serious revolutionary organization, this is the paper of these revolutionaries, right, assures us in all serious, quote, would give up trying to settle disputed questions of social theory, which always lead to disunity, although this, of course, should not hinder theoreticians from seeking their solution. So this is really interesting. He says, more outspokenly, what they're really saying is let the writers do the writing and the readers do the reading. And in the meantime, while they are busying themselves, we will rejoice at the blank left behind. And this is true. This is what this actually means. You know, oh, we'll leave all the reading to, like, who cares? Like, you know, like, we're actually here doing it. But what happens when you just act without a strong plan, without a strong roadmap, without a strong understanding of why you are acting, right? And this is when I use the term reactionary, like you would talk about like a dog, like a reactive dog. It's not like a reactionary so much. It's more like being reactive. But these are reactive people. They're like, no. Don't have a plan. Just react. Just respond in the moment. Right? First time chat. So now, yeah, we have bourgeois pacifism and socialist pacifism, and then we have anarchists who say burn trash cans, right? Yeah. So, and this is really their goal. And what's actually interesting is I know this from my work. You know, I do fashion branding. I've worked in branding and stuff like that in the past. And sometimes you'll talk to a client and you'll be like, what, you know, let's talk about your brand. Let's identify your target market. And they'll be like, no, I just want to appeal to everybody. And I always have to have this conversation with companies, right? When I'm doing my job. And when I used to do this more as a job, actually, I used to like consult as a branding and marketing person. I'd say you're not going to appeal to everybody. You are going to appeal to nobody because nobody is going to feel like this is for you. And this is true. This is a similar thing. We don't need to have a firm ideology. It just causes disunity. Okay, well then you have no ideology. You have no plan. And this is just a self-serving act of vanity then, because are people just supposed to trust you? How do they know what they're agreeing to? How do they know what they're interested in? What are they signing up for? They're not going to be able to trust it. There's nothing there for them to latch onto. So this is also not an effective way to radicalize the masses. You're not explaining to them anything they can relate to. So Lenin says, there is no need, of course, to engage in a serious analysis of this theory of deviation from socialism in the event of disputes proper. And this goes back to even Marx and Engels talking about utopian socialism versus scientific socialism. If you don't know how you're going to achieve socialism, are you just hoping for the best? It really goes back to this idea of just utopianism. Like, we'll just vibe it out, babes. We'll vibe it out. And the reason that Marx was like, you can't vibe it out. You need a clear-cut path for how you achieve socialism. And I think it is by liberating the working class from the oppression of the owning class. That was his position. And Marx, we saw, was able to actually create, with that theory as the basis, Marxist-Leninists were able to create more successful revolutions that were larger scale and worked. So in our opinion, Lenin says, the crisis of socialism makes it incumbent upon any and the least serious socialists to devote redoubled attention to theory. If you're confused about what's going on, the solution is not ignore theory. It's get it more into theory, babe. Double down. To adopt more resolutely a strictly definite stand. To draw a sharper line of demarcation between themselves and wavering and unreliable elements. What sets us apart from Luigi Mangione? What sets us apart from the Ontario warehouse fire? What sets us apart from a guy who takes out his economic frustration shooting a bunch of children in a school? That man thinks he's doing a revolutionary act of some kind. Right? And we know that that's very different than a guy lighting some paper on fire in an empty warehouse. These are two very, very different things. But the man shooting children at a school doesn't know that. Probably. He's just mad and wants to feel powerful. And people who are doing these random acts of terrorism, lighting trash cans on fire, they're mad and they want to feel powerful. It comes from the same place. So how do you know you're different? How do those two people know they're different from each other? How do you know you're different from them? It's your theory. It's your reason you're doing it. It's the reason you're not doing it. The theory literally is what you use to differentiate yourself from other people, right? So, that's what's important. So in the opinion of the socialist revolutionaries, if such things as confusion and splits are possible, quote, even among Germans, then it is God's will that we, Russians, should pride ourselves on our ignorance of whether or not we are drifting. Or whither we are drifting, sorry. In our opinion, the absence of theory deprives a revolutionary trend of the right to existence and inevitably condemns it, sooner or later, to political bankruptcy. What no theory does to a motherfucker, right? If you don't have a strong theoretical background, what are you fighting for? You're not a revolutionary. What revolution do you want? We don't even know. You're politically bankrupt at that point. right? What are you doing this for? What is your morality? What are you attached to? And this is something I say a lot. A lot of people will tell you what they stand against. Very few people will tell you what they stand for. It's easy to condemn things. It's easy to go out into the world and condemn things. I hate capitalism. I hate this. I hate that. It's easy to hate the Democratic Party. It's easy to hate the Republican Party. It's easy to hate Trump. It's easy to hate all sorts of things. It's easy to hate the Marxist-Leninists, the tankies, the Othcoms, right? It's easy to hate the USSR. It's easy to hate China. It's easy to hate whatever you want to hate. It's harder to defend something and to stand for something, right? It's harder to say, no socialist project has been perfect because nothing can be perfect. And yet I defend them and that I stand for them, you know? And because I stand for them and I defend them, that gives me the inspiration and the motivation, furthermore, to look into what's real and what's fake, what's propaganda about these places, and what are real things that we actually should discuss and consider. And that is what it really means to adhere to a basis theory. You know what it means to stand for something. You know what you're standing for. You know why. And liberals will look at this and say, well, so what? You just defend anything if it says it's Marxist-Leninist. And it's like, well, no, but I understand things that say they're Marxist-Leninist because I understand the theoretical framework that they are engaging on, and I can critique and judge them and hold them accountable to a standard of what Marxist-Leninist political ideology is. And that's something that many people are not able to do. I know how to critique a Marxist-Leninist government because I know what they are working to try to achieve, and I know how successfully or unsuccessfully they have done it. I know how to critique a capitalist government because I understand the framework that they are operating under, and I know how successful or unsuccessful they have been in accomplishing it, right? And this is what having a theoretical understanding does for you. And you need to have that so you know, right? And this is why Lenin says, if you have an absence of theory, it just makes you politically bankrupt. Your revolution means nothing without theoretical backing. And then he goes on to say, well, these socialist revolutionaries for his time, for them, having no theory means that you're able to build more unity. But he says, as you see, we cannot reach agreement with them. For the fact of the matter is that we speak different languages. There is one hope. Perhaps they will be made to be seen reason by Mr. Struve, somebody relevant to their movement at the time, who also, only more seriously, speaks about the elimination of dogma and says that our business, as in the business of the bourgeoisie that appeals to the proletariat, is not to disunite, but to unite. Will not the socialist revolutionaries ever see, with the help of Mr. Struve, what is really signified by their stand of liberation from socialism with the purpose of unity, and unity on the occasion of liberation from socialism? Right? So he's saying what they really want to do is they want to liberate you, the working class, from socialism, because socialism means understanding socialist theory. And what does that really leave you with? Something directionless, right? So let us go over the second point, the question of terrorism. In their defense of terrorism, which the experience of the Russian revolutionary movement has so clearly proved to be ineffective, the socialist revolutionaries are talking themselves blue in the face and asseverating that they recognize terrorism only in conjunction with work among the masses, and that therefore the arguments used by the Russian Social Democrats to refute the efficacy of this struggle, which have indeed been refuted for a long time to come, do not apply to them. So what he's saying here is that, look, Russian Social Democrats are like, hey, your terrorism thing, it's not working. And so these guys are like, we're not doing like regular terrorism. They're talking themselves blue in the face. They're like, no, because we're doing it in conjunction with the needs of the working class. We're meeting them where they are. We're doing working class oriented terrorism. So what Lenin says is, here is something very similar to their attitudes toward criticism is repeating itself. We're not opportunist, they say, and at the same time, they're shelving the dogma of proletarian socialism for reason of sheer opportunism and nothing else. We're not repeating the terrorist mistakes and not diverting attention from work among the masses, they say. And at the same time, they enthusiastically recommend to the party acts such as the assassination of Sipiagin, even though everyone knows and sees perfectly well this was an act in no way connected with the masses. So he's saying they're not even meeting their own definition of what makes revolutionary terrorism okay. He's like, they're out here telling us, well, as long as revolutionary terrorism is connected to the masses, it's different. It's cool, man. We got this. But he's like, but you're out here recommending things that aren't connected with the masses, that just benefit you, right? And moreover, could not have been by reason of the very way in which it was carried out. That the persons who committed this terrorist act neither counted on nor hoped for any definite action or support on the party of the masses. In their naivety, the socialist revolutionaries do not realize that the predilection for terrorism is casually most intimately linked with the fact that, from the very outset, they have always kept and still keep aloof from the working class movement, without even attempting to become a party of the revolutionary class, which is waging its class struggle. Over-ardent protestations very often lead one to doubt and suspect the worth of whatever it is that requires such strong seasoning. Do not these protestations weary them? I often think of these words when I read assurances by this group of people, right? By terrorism, we are not relegating work among the masses into the background. After all, these assurances come from the very people who have already drifted away from the social democratic labor movement, which really rouses the masses. They come from people who are continuing to drift away from this movement, clutching at fragments of any kind of theory. The leaflet issued by the Party of the Socialist Revolutionaries on April 3rd, 1902, may serve as a splendid illustration of what has been stated above. It is a most realistic source, one that is very close to the immediate leaders, a most authentic source. He's like, let's hear from these guys who want to light trash cans on fire, right? Is our allegorical stand-in for what this kind of activity is. He's like, let's hear from them what they want to do, right? They're saying, well, we can do this and help the masses. We can light trash cans on fire and reach out to the masses. And he's like, but I don't think you are. And he goes on and he says, their own source says, the presentation of the question of the terrorist struggle in this leaflet coincides in full with the party views, according to the valuable testimony from the 7th issue of their paper. The April 3rd leaflet follows the pattern of the terrorists' latest arguments with remarkable accuracy. The first thing that strikes the eye is the words, we advocate terrorism, not in place of work among the masses, but precisely for and simultaneously with that work. They strike the eye particularly because these words are printed in letters 3 times as large as the rest of the text. A device that is, of course, repeated in another publishing. It is all really so simple. One only has to set not in place of, but together with, in bold type, and all of the arguments of the Social Democrats, all that history is taught, will fall to the ground. He's making fun of them. He's like, well, you put it in bold, so I guess it must be true. That's all you got to do. Okay. But just read the whole leaflet, and you will see that the protestation in bold type takes the name of the masses in vain. The day, quote, when the working people will emerge from the shadows, and, quote, the mighty popular wave will shatter the iron gates to smithereens, quote, alas, literally alas, is still a long way off, and it is frightful to think of the future toll of the victims. Do not these words, alas, still a long way off, reflect an utter failure to understand the mass movement and a lack of faith in it? Is not this argument meant as a deliberate sneer at the fact that the working people are already beginning to rise? And remember, this is what, 1905 he's writing this? No, 1902. 3 years before the 1905 uprising. 15 years before they have a fully socialist revolution. So he's right. At this time, he's like, hello, you're out here saying, in Russia, by the way, right, that this revolution is a long way off. And he's like, I don't think it is. I don't think it is a long way off. Light broke, sorry. He's like, they're uprising right now. What are you talking about? So you think we do a bunch of random acts of terrorism and we're never going to get a revolution? Meanwhile, the people actually are getting very, very class conscious and we're close to a revolution in his mind. And I think that's a really interesting thing to point out. Hi, Cotton Candy. Hello, hello. And finally, even if this trite argument were just as well-founded as it is actually stuff and nonsense, what would emerge from it in particularly bold relief would be the inefficacy of terrorism. For without the working people, all bombs are powerless, patently powerless. Just listen to what follows. Every terrorist blow, as it were, takes away part of the strength of the autocracy and transfers all of this strength to the side of the fighters for freedom. And if terrorism is practiced systematically, it is obvious that the scale of the balance will finally weigh down on our side. And Lenin says, yes, indeed, it is obvious to all that we have here, in its grossest form, one of the greatest prejudices of the terrorists. Political assassination of itself, quote, transfers strength. Thus, on the one hand, you have the theory of the transference of strength, and on the other, not in place of, but together with. Do not these protestations weary them? But this is just the beginning. The real thing is yet to come. Whom are we to strike down? Asks the Party of the Socialist Revolutionaries. And the replies, the ministers, and not the Tsar, for the Tsar will not allow matters to go to extremes. Lenin goes, how did they find that out? And besides, it is also easier. This is literally what they say. It's easier. No minister can ensconce himself in a palace as in a fortress. So Lenin is like, you're literally saying you don't want to go after the head honchos. You're just going to randomly target easy guys? What is that going to change? What is that going to do? And this argument concludes with the following piece of reasoning, which deserves to be immortalized as a model of the theory of these socialist revolutionaries. Against the crowd, the autocracy has its soldiers. Against the revolutionary organizations, its secret and uniformed police. But what will save it? What kind of it is this? Lenin says with the autocracy? The author has unwillingly identified the autocracy with a target in the person of minister whom is easier to strike down? From individuals or small groups that are ceaselessly and even in ignorance of one another, preparing for attack and are attacking. No force will avail against elusiveness. Hence our task is clear, to remove every one of the autocracy's brutal oppressors by the only means that have been left us by the autocracy, death. So this is what these adventurists are saying. No matter how many reams of paper, Lenin says, these adventurists may fill with assurances that they are not relegating work among the masses into the background or disorganizing it by their advocacy of terrorism, their spate of words cannot disprove the fact that actual psychology of the modern terrorist is faithfully conveyed in the leaflet we have quoted. The theory of the transference of strength finds its natural complement in the theory of elusiveness, a theory which turns upside down not only past experience, but all common sense as well. That the only hope of the revolution is the crowd, that only a revolutionary organization which leads this crowd, indeed, and not in word, can fight against the police. All of this is ABC. It's shameful to have to prove this. And only people who've forgotten everything and learned absolutely nothing could have decided the other way about, arriving at the fabulous howling stupidity that the autocracy can be saved from the crowd by soldiers, and from the revolutionary organizations by police, but that there is no salvation from individuals who hunt down the ministers. This fabulous argument, which we are convinced is destined to become notorious, is by no means simply a curiosity. No, it is instructive because, through a sweeping reduction to an absurdity, it reveals the principal mistake of the terrorists, which they share with the economists. Perhaps one may already say with the former representatives of deceased economism. This mistake, as we've already pointed out on numerous occasions, consists in the failure to understand the basic defeat of our movement. Right? So what is he really talking about here is going to be the contradiction. And he's going to lay into it. So we're going to explain it a little bit more. But what he's saying here is that, this approach they have is just a failure. It's a failure to understand things, right? He's saying that they want to go off these easy small targets, first of all. That makes no sense. And what he's going on to say here is this is going to basically lead to the basic defect of our movement. It's not defeat. Sorry, I said that incorrectly earlier. He's like, this is going to lead to the defeat of our movements. You're going after these random, convenient, small targets, right? And he's like, we're going to remove every one of the autocracy's brutal oppressors by death is what they're claiming. But then he's also saying the autocracy has soldiers that will fight them in this attempt. And the revolutionary organizations are being targeted by secret and uniformed police. And he's like, but if we just kill enough of them randomly, that's our only option, and that's what we're going to get, basically. So this is the argument that Lenin is saying. This makes no sense. And this actually acknowledges that you don't understand, like, the goal of a revolution. The goal of a revolution is not to shoot fish in a barrel, right? The goal of the revolution is to actually deal with the issues from the top, to get to the top. It's not to kill convenient employees of the ruling class. That's not how this goes. So he says, because of the extremely rapid growth of the movement, the leaders lagged behind the masses. The revolutionary organizations did not come up to the level of the revolutionary activity of the proletariat. They were incapable of marching on in front and leading the masses. That a discrepancy of this sort exists cannot be doubted by any conscientious person who has even the slightest acquaintance with the movement. And this is something we have to be wary of. We have to be aware of, right? And he says, if that is so, it is evident that the present-day terrorists are really economists turned inside out, going to the equally foolish but opposite extreme. At a time when the revolutionaries are short of the forces and means to lead the masses who are already rising, an appeal to resort to terrorist acts as the organization attempts on the lives of ministers by individuals and groups that are not known to one another means not only thereby breaking off work amongst the masses, but also introducing downright disorganization into the work. So Lenin's like, look, it's contrary to what they're saying that this revolution is going to be a long way off. He's like, it's not. The masses are getting radicalized as we speak. In fact, the masses are getting radicalized so fast, we don't have enough effective leaders in our movement to lead them, and we are scrambling. That's true. He says it's true. So how is the solution to that to tail end them, basically, to introduce just random acts of violence pointed indiscriminately at anything convenient, and then just introduce more disorganization and chaos? To address this issue, we actually need to be more organized, less chaotic, more precise. We have not enough people. We need to allocate them specifically and with intention. We don't need to send them off to shoot a random minister. Like, how does that make sense? And this is really what Lenin is saying. And you're removing revolutionary potential by focusing on these random freaking tasks that have nothing to do with leading the masses who are ready to be organized. So I think this is very, very interesting. So we revolutionaries are accustomed to huddling together in timid knots, we read in April 3rd's leaflet. And even the new bold spirit that has appeared during the last 2 or 3 years has so far done more to raise the sentiments of the crowds than individuals. And he says these words unintentionally express much that is true. He's like, oh, this is funny, but not for the reason you think. And it is this very truth that deals a smashing rebuff to the propagandists of terrorism. And he's like, this actually proves my point, not yours. He says, from this truth, every thinking socialist draws the conclusion that it is necessary to use group action more energetically, boldly, and harmoniously. The socialist revolutionists, the adventurists, however, conclude, shoot, elusive individual, for the knot of the people, alas, is still a long way off. And besides, there are soldiers against the knot. This really defies all reason. And then he throws in gentlemen just to be sassy, which I think is really funny. So he's like, oh, okay, so your solution for the revolution is to just shoot a random guy because you think that the revolution's not going to come very soon and you don't want to deal with a bunch of soldiers protecting someone important? Girl, what? Right? And that's what Lenin is like, oh, couldn't be me. Couldn't be me. So he says, nor does the leaflet eschew the theory of excitative terrorism. Quote, each time a hero engages in single combat, this arouses in all a spirit of struggle and courage, we are told. But we know from the past and see in the present that only new forms in the mass movement or the awakening of new sections in the masses to independently struggle really rouses the spirit of struggle and courage in all. He's like, okay, cool. So somebody watches you go shoot a random guy, and that's supposed to make us all really happy and make us want to join a revolution. No, that just excites people who want to go shoot a random guy. That doesn't build class consciousness. That doesn't actually awaken huge sectors of our country or community who are being systematically oppressed to make them understand the nature of their oppression and want to rise up and come up with some new solution. Single combat, however, in as much as it remains single combat, has the immediate effect of simply creating a short-lived sensation, while indirectly it leads to apathy and passive waiting for the next bout. And this is really the crux of Lenin's understanding of adventurism. Okay, cool. Everybody got excited for a second. And then everyone's like, what next? But guess what? You're not ready for a revolution in this very moment. So the revolution's not coming next. So then what happens? Well, nothing happens for a while. And then people get apathetic and passive. And they'll just wait for the next time you shoot a random minister, I guess. Time you light another trash can on fire. And he says, we are further assured by them that every flash of terrorism lights up the mind, which unfortunately we have not noticed to be the case with the terrorism preaching party of the socialist revolutionaries. We are presented with the theory of big work and petty work. Quote, let not those who have greater strength, greater opportunities and resolution rest content with petty work. Let them find and devote themselves to the big cause, the propaganda of terrorism among the masses, the preparation of the intricate, the theory of elusiveness, it's already forgotten, terrorist ventures. How amazingly clever this is in all truth, to sacrifice the life of a revolutionary for the sake of wreaking vengeance on the scoundrel, Sippy again in the situation, who is then replaced by a new scoundrel. That is big work. And this is what he's saying. You're going to send off your revolutionaries to kill a random dude, get arrested, maybe get executed, And then what are they going to do? They're just going to replace him with another dude. And now you've got a new dude that you got to kill. That doesn't do anything. Right? How does that fix anything? What did you accomplish? And the funny thing is that this can be applied to Donald Trump in Iran. It's like, okay, so you decided the Ayatollah was your enemy. So you killed the Ayatollah. Good job, 90-year-old man, by the way. What did they do? They just replaced him with another Ayatollah. You didn't do anything. And this is the same argument Lenin is using towards these adventurists, right? He's like, okay, you killed a random guy. They're just going to replace him with another random guy. Why? Because you're not targeting the system. Right? You're not targeting the system. So he says, to prepare, for instance, the masses for an armed demonstration, that's petty work. This very point is explained in number 8, the 8th issue of the Adventurist paper, which declares that, quote, it is easy to write and speak of armed demonstrations as a matter of the vague and distant future. But up until now, all of this talk has been merely of a theoretical nature. How well we know this language of people who are free from the constraint of firm socialist convictions, right? Of the burdensome experience of each and every kind of popular movement. They confuse immediately tangible and sensational results with practicalness. He's saying, the things that are long-term, that are slow, that take time and effort and dedication to build, they are not interested in that. They want immediate sensation. To them, the demand to adhere steadfastly to the class standpoint and maintain the mass nature of the movement is just vague theorizing. In their eyes, definitiveness is a slavish compliance with every turn of sentiment, and by reason of this compliance, inevitable helplessness at every turn. Demonstrations begin, and bloodthirsty words talk about the beginning of the end that flow from the lips of such people. The demonstrations halt, their hands drop helplessly, and before they have had time to wear out a pair of boots, they are already shouting, the people, alas, are still a long way off. Some new outrage is perpetrated by the Tsar's henchmen, and they demand to be shown a definite measure that would serve as an exhaustive reply to that particular outrage, a measure that would bring about an immediate transference of strength. And they proudly promise this transference will occur. These people do not understand that this very promise to transfer strength constitutes political adventurism, and that their adventurism stems from their lack of principle. Something bad happens, and he says, before you even wore out a new pair of boots, you're yelling, the people, they're not going to do anything. The masses aren't going to do anything, so we're going to do something definite, right? To this one particular outrage, because immediately it grants us a little bit of power. Now all of a sudden we're in control for that one moment it takes to shoot that gun, to light that on fire. But he's like, you're not getting political power from that at all. It's just in that moment. The Social Democrats will always warn against adventurism and ruthlessly expose illusions, which inevitably end in complete disappointment. And when Lenin says Social Democrats here, he's not talking about Soc Dems like we talk about today. This is the name of the party that he was working on, the group he was working on. So it's not like how, we think of Social Democrats, small letters. We must bear in mind that a revolutionary party is worthy of its name only when it quides. This word apparently is not used correctly or spelled correctly or something. Indeed, the movement of a revolutionary class. What he's saying is, you're not revolutionaries. You're not a revolutionary party. You're not doing revolution, because you're not acting in your actions. Indeed, with a revolutionary class, you're not thinking about the class. We must bear in mind that any popular movement assumes an infinite variety of forms, is constantly developing new forms, discarding the old, and effecting modifications or new combinations of old and new forms. It is our duty to participate actively in this process of working out means and methods of struggle. When the students' movement became sharper, we began to call on the workers to come to the aid of the students. Without taking it upon ourselves to forecast the forms of the demonstrations, without promising that they would result in an immediate transference of strength and lighting up the mind or special elusiveness. And this is important for us to remember too. When people are like, these protests aren't a revolution. And it's like, well, no. When Parenti says, do you think you're going to overthrow the government by going outside and marching in a little circle with a picket? Chides means, it's maybe, it's Q-U-I-D-E-S. You think it means chides? When it chides, probably, instead of quides. Because I think to do these, they use an automatic thing. that like takes a picture, and I could see the Q and the H together accidentally being or the Q and the U accidentally being a C and an H. I think you're right, Malrish. I think that is what it is. Thank you. So what he's saying is, you know, like Parenti said, do you think, you know, going outside, marching a little circle with shine is going to change anything? He says, no, I'm going to do it anyway. And when we look at the protests, we say, a protest is not a revolution. What does it accomplish? What are we doing? This is what he says. He says, you know, when the demonstrations become consolidated, we call for the organization and the arming of the masses. We put forward the task of preparing a popular uprising. But he says that at the time, we didn't think that just going to a protest was immediately going to transfer power from the owning class to the masses. That's not why we did that, right? We didn't promise that. We didn't think that that was going to happen. We also didn't even say that they would result in an immediate lighting up of the mind, that it was going to create class consciousness overnight or anything of that nature. But he said, when the demonstrations started to really come together and started to pick up more force and more energy, then we began to call for organizing and arming the masses, right? And put forward the task of preparing a popular uprising then. And he's like, we didn't think one protest was going to do this. We didn't think 10 protesters were going to do this. But we keep doing protests because we keep trying to gauge how many people are interested, how many people are on board, how many people have been activated. And this is how we build towards a popular uprising. And he says, without in least denying violence and terrorism in principle, we demanded work for the preparation of such forms of violence as were calculated to bring around direct participation of the masses and which guaranteed participation. He's like, we're not saying, hey, it's going to be peaceful and dandy. We're not idealists. But we're also not going to send random people to their death for no reason other than a quick thrill, right? We want to calculate how we engage in uprising. We want to be smart about it. We want to be calculated about it. We do not close our eyes to the difficulties of this task, but will work at it steadfastly and persistently, undeterred by the objections that this matter of the, quote, vague and distant future. Yes, gentlemen, we stand for future, and not only past forms of government. Past forms of the movement, rather. We give preference to long and arduous work on what promises a future rather than an easy repetition of what has been condemned in the past. And this kind of thing, he's like, you have no imagination for the future. You have no ideas of the future. You're not working for the future. You're working to repeat things you've already seen, and guess what? They've failed. So why put your energy into repeating things that you know don't work, instead of trying to plan for a future that you've not even seen yet? We shall always expose people who in word war against hackneyed dogmas and in practice hold exclusively to such moth-eaten and harmful commonplace as the theory of the transference of strength, the difference between big work and petty work, and of course the theory of single combat. Quote, just as in days of yore, people's battles were fought out by their leaders in single combat, so now the terrorists will win Russia's freedom in single combat with the autocracy, the leaflet concludes. The mere reprinting of such sentences provides their refutation. Anyone who really carries on his revolutionary work in conjunction with the class struggle of the proletariat very well knows, sees and feels what vast numbers of immediate and direct demand of the proletariat remain unsatisfied. He knows that in very many places throughout vast areas, the working people are literally straining to go into action, and their ardor runs to waste because of the scarcity of literature and leadership, the lack of forces and means in revolutionary organizations. So he's saying the people want something. We see they want something. And you are here saying that giving them theory, giving them organization, giving them long-term plans somehow imprisons them or harms them. And he says, no. Giving these eager people who want to engage in something that will bring about actual change, that comes with literature and leadership. That comes with organization. That's what you give them. You don't give them a gun and point them in a direction and go, I don't know, go shoot that guy. That's not what you do with these people. That accomplishes nothing. You give them theory. You show them what we are fighting for. You show them the plan. You get them on board. So, and if we find ourselves, we see that we find ourselves in the same old vicious circle that is so long hemmed in the Russian Revolution like an omen of evil. On the one hand, the revolutionary ardor of the insufficiently enlightened an unorganized crowd runs to waste. And he's like, look, the masses have revolutionary capacity. They have revolutionary capacity and potential. But if they are insufficiently enlightened, if they don't really have class consciousness, if they're not quite there yet mentally, if they're disorganized, it's wasted. You're wasting the revolutionary potential of these people. And he says, on the other hand, shots fired by elusive individuals who are losing faith in the possibility of marching in formation and working in hand with the masses, that also ends in smoke. He's like, just sending these people off to do random tasks of violence, that accomplishes nothing. And that will actually lead to the masses being disengaged as well. Things can still be put to rights, comrades, Lenin says. Loss of faith in a real cause is the rare exception, not the rule. The urge to commit terrorist acts is a passing mood. Then let the Social Democrats close their ranks, and we shall fuse the militant organization of revolutionaries and the mass heroism of the Russian proletariat into a single whole. Now, he has a second article, which we don't have time to read, or a section of this article. But that's kind of it, what we could get through today. What do we think of this guy, Lemon? Seems swell. So, what do you guys think? Is there anything we can take from this about our statement? Counterculture Cowpoke says the statement from Fred Hampton on adventurism in the Wonder Underground is as relevant as ever. Let's take a look at that. If the person didn't block me. Who posted it?
Why do you feel that the approach of the SDS weatherman is the wrong approach?
I feel that it's wrong because it's pig action. You see, it's doing exactly what the pigs want them to do. They're leading people into a situation where it's an astronomical situation, too great for the people to deal with. It's a situation where you got a bunch of mechanical pigs with 357 Magnums and shotguns and mechanical mace and all that type of thing. And then they're talking about they're going to carry on a revolutionary struggle. That's not revolution, it's insanity, it's madness, it's nostalgia, and it's a massacre. That's what potential massacre, that's what it is. And we don't support that because we say all power to the people. All the power is manifested in the people. We don't have any people whose lives we believe that should be thrown away.
Has the weatherman SDS tried to get you to go on their side? Have you met with them, and what happened?
We met with the weatherman faction of SDS several times. We've had ideological struggles and we have ideological differences. So what we did was we had the other faction of SDS that agreed with the Black Panther Party called for an alternate action, a well-disciplined action not to provoke pigs, an action not to talk about setting up confrontations with the pigs because the people are not ready for confrontation. These confrontations that they have are premature. They're politically premature.
So yeah, obviously everything Fred Hampton's saying is like spot on. And what's wild is when you see socialist orgs today take this position and try to protect people at protests from getting into altercations with the police. Yeah, we're going to watch it at the end of this. I'm going to finish this one and then we'll look at the winning side. You know, people get mad. They're so mad. They're like, they're working with the cops. They're collaborating with the cops. And it's like, no, comma, you idiot. They're trying not to get you murdered by the cops because you're lighting trash cans on fire and that's not a revolution. Now is not the time for you to put your life on the line for a parade. That's not what's going on here. This isn't the revolution. And that's hard for people to really understand because they don't have that patience. They don't have that long-term vision. And I remember, you know, I was a teenage anarchist. So and then I was in an org that wasn't super hands-on. It was more like individual classes or, you know, small things. And when I joined an org that was more principled and more focused and more hands-on, I remember I went to my first action with them. They were saying things like, don't step a foot into the street because they're looking for reasons to arrest us and you will get arrested. Like, don't go on that. If you cross that line, that's private property. We're in public property here. We're not going to get arrested. And as an anarchist, I would have been like, then what's the point of even doing this? But it's like, what's the point of stepping into the street or going on private property right now? Do I really think I'm gonna take down this government building right now? Like, no, I'm not. So what's the point of doing it? It's emotional. It's an emotional outburst because you're frustrated. It's not rational. It's not useful, right? And in that moment, I was like, oh, and they were like, yeah, we don't want you to get arrested. Our goal is for you not to get arrested. And as somebody who has been arrested for assaulting police officers before, I was like, oh, yeah, it doesn't make sense. Why did I get arrested for assaulting a police officer in that moment? I mean, it's just the police officers were assholes. But, you know, more than that, it's like, it wasn't useful. It didn't help anything. It didn't help anything in my life. It certainly didn't help advance any revolutionary goals. And in that moment, I was really like, okay, I get it. Like, yeah, this is what you're supposed to be doing. You're supposed to have discipline. To be a good socialist is to have discipline. And that's what Fred Hampton's talking about here. He's like, we're trying to save people's lives. We're not trying to give the police any justification to come after you or fight you. It was kind of funny. The way I got arrested was really funny, actually. I can tell that story one day. But yeah, we're gonna keep going. We're gonna finish up this video, and then we're gonna end with the video Carr sent earlier.
And they're wrong because they commit people in a situation which they're not anywhere prepared for.
Well, why do you think the weatherman SDS tried to link the Black Panther Party to its movement?
I don't know if it was actually the weatherman of SDS. I have to say that it was the establishment press that is nothing but a tool of Ward Nixon's machine. We call him Ward Nixon. Because the whole world is penitentiary, and he's just a warden of the whole world. And you see, these people are just an arm that he uses for fascist oppression, you know. And I think that these fascist news media might have did that.
Now, briefly, how would you sum up what the Weatherman SDS is trying to do?
They did kill this man. They
killed
killed this man because he was so good at speaking to the people.
White people need to learn how to struggle. That they believe that these white workers need to learn how to struggle through confrontations. I have to say that basically I believe that this is incorrect. I believe that white workers have been struggling. They're some of the most violent people in the world. I believe that what they need is they need a redirection in their ideology and in their politics. They need to know who to struggle against. The workers need to start to begin to learn that their job is to struggle against the bosses. And until they do this, then struggle is incorrect. It's like no struggle at all. We said that if you don't struggle correctly, you shouldn't struggle. But you should struggle. We said dare to struggle and you dare to win. Dare not to struggle and you don't deserve to win. But we have...
Oh my God, I totally forgot this. Virgo said that liberals on TikTok think I said I was the Fred Hampton of TikTok. Literally, when people were like, oh my God, I'm so sorry you're getting dogpiled. How are you surviving this? I was like, they literally killed Fred Hampton. This is fine. I'm fine with this. This is not bad. That's actually what happened. That's so funny. But Fred Hampton is right. And what he is saying is quite literally Marx's doctrine about scientific versus utopian socialism. Fred Hampton is saying, until you learn that your struggle is against the owning class, against your boss, against your landlord, you're not even going to be struggling the right way. So what's the point? And it's really what he's saying here.
Struggle properly.
What about the special approach of Weatherman, which seems to be violence?
Well, you see, I don't think it's really violence, you know what I mean? I think it's just a lot of folly, a lot of child's play. I think that to have violence, you got to be able to cope with violence, you know what I mean? And that's what the Black Panther Party, a lot of people say we're violent. We're a self-defense organization that believes that the people should be educated what's going on. Yes, we do defend our offices and we do defend our homes. This is a constitutional right. Everybody has. There's nothing funny about that. The only reason they get mad at the Black Panther Party when they do it is for the simple reason that we're political. And they don't want to admit this. There are a lot of young organizations around, but we're a political organization. We're an organization that understands that politics is nothing but war without bloodshed, and war is nothing but politics with bloodshed. That it's just like you stretch something.
Yes,
you can stretch things, they're going to be another thing. If you stretch politics so long, it'll be war. And that's where we're at.
Well, then why do you feel it's so important for the Black Panther Party to disavow any real link with the Weatherman SDS?
I think it's important because there are a lot of people that watch the Black Panther Party for examples. They observe us and participate with us. And if we can be connected up to this, then it would be very unadvantageous to the people, and it would be very unadvantageous to the struggle, in that people that claim to be revolutionary would be going down roads that they think might be revolution, but in fact they're not roads of revolution. They'll be going east when their intentions are going west. And also it's important because Chairman Bobby Seale is in town, and he's being tried by this fascist Judge Adolf Hitler Hoffman, you know, and he's being tried without a lawyer. And we've got to bring all of the attention and focus on this trial that we possibly can, so that people can understand that these people are more capable of building gas chambers than Hitler ever was capable of building gas chambers. And we're going to have to get together. We're going to have some anti-gas chamber marches, and some anti-fascism marches, and some anti-Hitler Hoffman marches, and some anti-Mussolini Attorney General Mitchell marches, and some anti-Daley and some anti-Hammerhead marches. These are the things we're going to have to do. And people need to be educated. If they're educated, we can resist and we can stop this fascism.
So notice how he positions the role of the marches as education. He says people need to be educated. We're going to have these marches to educate people so that they learn that the American government is more capable of building gas chambers than Hitler. And this isn't to downplay the Holocaust, very obviously, but it's to say Nazi Germany learned from us. Nazi Germany learned from the Holocaust of the indigenous Americans. They learned from the Holocaust of the Black Americans. The United States has been at this. We have had Holocausts of our own as well. And this is what he really wants people to understand, right? And he's correct to bring that up, right? So this is, really important. I'll give you guys the link for this. Great video. And it's sad. You see why they killed this man. This man was a threat. He was so good at talking to people, at uniting Black and white Americans together. When he talks about the white working class, he's honest, but he's not dismissive of them and their struggles, right? He spoke the truth very, very, very well. So I dropped that link to that. It's really, really good. There were some other messages while he was speaking in here, some chat that was good that I wanted to talk about. Oh, Alexandra Bruchau said, statism is the primary contradiction for many anarchists, usually white, removed from the global South struggle, enjoying the spoils of imperialism, which is actually the primary contradiction. Yes, and that doesn't mean there aren't indigenous activists who are anarchists. Their form of indigenous anarchism is often very different than the type of white anarchism we talk about here in the Imperial Core. It's a very different experience, typically. Oh, Raina Hendricks has an alt account called Red Theory Media with lots of revolutionary speakers. Great to scroll across randomly. Cool. Everybody check that out, please. So, hi, Raccoon Psyop. We're about to close out. So, I think that is also a good point for us to remember that in the global South, these people, their government protects them from us, protects them from the Imperial Core, gives them a shot at resisting us, at surviving us. And that's important. It's important for us to remember as well. And I think that also plays into the idea of adventurism versus practicality and protecting people long term. If you want to save people's lives, there are ways you do this, and that's what we want to do. Real Georgia says we should read about indigenous anarchism on Thursday. That could be an interesting submission as well. Okay, so I am gonna try to do another raid. We're gonna see if it works, but I didn't change anything, so it might not. So if my raid doesn't work, I'm gonna recommend you all go to Larry's channel. If you go to just my main page, it'll probably pop up at the top when I'm done streaming because I set up my recommended people to play at the top. So do that. Jump on over. Larry is gonna be talking about Juche today, which is very exciting for Tuesday. Mallard says the most doomer form of optimism is that the U.S. can get to at least a point where it's boots off the throat of the global South so they can have their own development. That's your most doomer form of optimism. Yeah. And that's what socialist movements, growing socialist movements in the Imperial Core looks like. It looks like the boot off the throat of the global South, which doesn't mean Europe won't step in and put that boot down, right? But it means a little breathing room for a little bit at least. So Virgo's working on a lesson plan also for Lenin's use of polemics, which is interesting for Thursday as well. We're going to try to do this raid. If it doesn't work, though, please just go to Larry's channel, and I do have to figure this out. I just haven't had time. I got a lot of stuff to carry out. Oh, the UK vid. Yes. Oh my God, Car, I'm sorry. Is it this one or is it the other one? Hold on. I have this one pulled up still to show later, but is it something else? I'm so sorry, Car. I forgot it. You're blocking my ability to raid. Okay. Hold on. Thank you, Car. Thank you for keeping me on this too.
Why do you feel that?
Oh, this is this one. Wait, this is the wrong one. Hold on. Copy.
So our old policy, we're outside Parliament. MPs tonight.
I just want to say I do appreciate this. Car's giving us all the UK updates because I know nothing about UK politics. So Car's educating me about UK politics on stream, and hopefully some of you guys too.
Are debating the crime and policing bill, including the government's amendment to increase the police's powers to clamp down and place restrictions on our right to protest. Ludicrously, based on the existing powers that the police have, they've already imposed a condition on us saying that we can't use any amplified noise on this protest. So we can't use megaphones, we can't use loudspeakers of any kind. This shows just how far our right to protest has already been curtailed, and if these measures go through Parliament tonight, they're going to give the police even greater powers to prevent protests on the grounds that they cause so-called cumulative disruption, meaning because somebody else protested outside Parliament last week, you can be banned from protesting outside Parliament this week. It is an absolutely shocking example of the way that protest rights have been cut down and restricted and continue to be so.
So that means that you're basically...
This is pretty gnarly.
But I just think there is this deep authoritarian drift which includes the unprecedented use of police restrictions to clamp down on protests in solidarity with the Palestinian people. It includes the outrageous prescription of Palestine Action as terrorists, the subsequent arrests of nearly 3,000 people, literally.
Disco Witch, I got it. I'm going to pull it up next.
Of protest organisers like Ben Jamal and Chris Nynam. It's an authoritarian climate that is increasing under this government. We're already seeing the effects of it in terms of limiting our right to protest, and if this legislation goes through and set again, even worse.
And what do you think is going to look like resistance-wise if everything's illegal?
Well, I think what we need to do is we need to redouble our determination. Firstly, to continue to build the community of resistance, redouble our commitment to build the alliances we need to push back against this authoritarian drift, but also to carry on protesting, to continue to exercise our right to protest. You can see people are still making noise despite the ban on megaphones. We're still protesting. We'll be protesting again on Friday. We need people out on the streets in unprecedented numbers on the 16th of May for the Nakba Day March in response to the attempts by far-right groups who have no problem securing the whole of central London for their protests in order, they hope, to drive the Palestine movement off the streets. So we've just got to keep on carrying on, keep on building the movement, and show that we won't be silenced.
What's happening on Friday? Where can people get more info?
On Friday, we're holding a protest to mark Palestinian Prisoners' Day. We're going to be outside Downing Street from 6 o'clock. We're going to be highlighting the grotesque abuse of Palestinian prisoners in Israeli jails, including the disgusting execution law recently passed by the Israeli parliament, allowing them effectively to lynch Palestinian prisoners.
And where can people get more info?
They can get more info if they look at PSC's social media and our website and our coalition partners.
And what's PSC?
The Palestine Solidarity Campaign.
Thank you.
Thank you.
This is wild. This is so, this is more intense than the United States even. Banning megaphones, getting arrested for saying free Palestine. Is that, it's really, really, really intense. Okay, we have one more we're going to watch. I do appreciate these updates from everybody about the UK.
So we're on Old Pally.
Oh, this is the same one. This is the one we just watched. Okay, yeah. Lord Oxy wants to point out there's a webinar with Claudia de la Cruz tomorrow that people can sign up for, talking about the May Day strike. So you guys should sign up for that if you're interested. No, I didn't see the fuel protests in Ireland. Yeah, one girl was arrested for wearing the free... Was it a Free Palestine shirt or From the River to the Sea? Oh, the Lebanon one too. We'll watch the Lebanon one too. Where am I gonna just close that? I think it was just... Oh, I lost it. Where was it? Oh. It was, a different... Where the fuck was it? Snaptic? Jump share. Yeah, that was it. Okay, watch this. This is a person who blocked me who thinks there's a weird genocide.
Israel's conditions for a ceasefire with Lebanon have been leaked, and one of those conditions is a partition plan. They want to split Lebanon up into 3 different sections. Israel and Lebanon are in the U.S. for ceasefire talks right now. This is a historic moment. This is the first time in over 40 years that diplomatic talks have been held between the two countries. And Israel seeks to undermine that diplomacy by suggesting a partition plan for Lebanon. Zone 1 would be an 8-kilometer buffer zone in the south, a permanent zone. There would be no return for displaced Lebanese living within that zone. Zone 2 is everything south of the Litani. It becomes a military operations zone, meaning permanent presence of Israeli troops to dismantle Hezbollah infrastructure. And only Israeli forces would get to decide when they leave the area, which likely means never. And Zone 3 is the rest of Lebanon, everything north of the Litani. Every single person displaced from the south will be pushed into that area. In this area, they said it's up to the Lebanese army to fully dismantle and disarm Hezbollah. And Israel won't withdraw from anywhere until that's done. This is occupation of South Lebanon. This follows the exact same framework, the same division of zones that they used in the Oslo Accords. Oslo divided the West Bank into areas A, B, and C, and was supposed to be a framework to lead to Palestinian state. What it led to instead was de facto annexation. That plan, that division of land, is why we are seeing so many illegal Israeli settler outposts pop up in Palestinian-controlled areas of the West Bank. That's why we see massive levels of settler violence. That's why we see resources for the Palestinian community completely controlled by Israel and rerouted to illegal settlements. They restrict their water usage, they restrict their access to arable farmland, they restrict their electricity usage, they restrict their internet usage. All in a bid to try to force the Palestinians to leave. And if they don't, well, they just take their homes anyway. And this is what they're suggesting for Lebanon. We've already seen this partition plan become a massive failure, leading to the annexation of the West Bank. I do not want to see it lead to the annexation of South Lebanon as well. Joseph Aoun, Nawaf Salem, I'm sorry, grow a pair and work for the people of your country to oppose this annexation plan.
Damn, this weird conspiracy theorist is spitting facts about Lebanon and Israel, though. And she's right. She's right, and she should say it. Mallard says 14 seconds, cops pulling down barricades built in Ireland to prevent fuel from leaving the ports, nationwide road obstructions. They brought the army to put everything down. Okay, so this is what's going on in regards to Israel, Palestine, Lebanon updates, UK, Ireland. I do have to get to work soon. I'm a little late, so we can't keep watching a bunch more. This will have to be the last one. But we'll watch this one last one. Where's the fucking audio on Instagram? Why can't I hear anything? You guys can probably hear it. Can you hear it? I can't hear it. There's like usually like a... Oh, there it is. No, not... They put the audio button on top of the transcribe button. These fuckers. Okay, sorry. Wow. Well, incredible things happening in the Palestinian liberation movement in Ireland and England even, right? UK 500 people were arrested a few days ago for holding signs say, I oppose genocide, I stand with Palestine action. Wow. Absolutely wild. It makes me wonder if we might see England on a more revolutionary course than the United States, like ahead of us, as more and more of these freedoms start to get taken away. PLM I don't know about. Palestinian Youth Movement is what we have out here in the United States. PYM, and PYM is good. And I'll show you their website before we go. And that'll be the last thing before I try to read Larry. This is the PYM website. And they're cool. They're very, very cool. They're good people. So I would recommend if you want to get involved, check out what they have going on. They do a lot of good work. Okay, so I'm gonna try this raid. Let's see if it works. Yes, it worked! It worked today! Okay, everybody, go get your juche on with Larry. Tell Larry I say hi and send my love, and I'll see you all here tomorrow.